right, with it being after 7 o'clock, I think, we'll call the November 15th to order. Hi there. And we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. One, two, three. Sorry. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we have two. Did you get to read them?
So I read the minutes and I found they were fine as drafted, no changes.
Okay, motion?
I move that we approve the minutes as drafted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. COC 242-1313, 509 Waverly Road, request to continue till December 13th.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1716, 146 Main Street.
The order was issued in August of 2017, and it governed removal of an existing pump house and failing sewer pump station, replacing it with a below-grade 1,000-gallon pump chamber and associated appurtenances, along with a force main that was to be sleeved. It was modified in June of 2022 with some minor shifting and minor details that were made. And then an administrative approval for once the contractor got on site and found two 90-degree bends in the existing pipe that they wanted to avoid, so they did a straight connection instead. Work is complete, site stable, no issues to report, so I'd recommend issuing a full and complete certificate of compliance.
Thank you. Ryan?
No questions.
Joe?
No questions.
Jack?
I have no questions.
Sean? Motion?
Move that we grant the COC for 242-1716, 146 Main Street.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. But we have a lot of butters here tonight. This isn't a flag discussion, right? Okay, small project. NACC 315, 43 Mill Street Road.
Alrighty. The project involves an in-kind front porch and stairs replacement. At its closest point, the replacement structure will be approximately 75 feet from the wetland, based on our staff site measurements of the fresh delineation out there. The original porch collapsed due to rot and has been removed from the premises for safety, but the newly constructed porch will be in the exact footprint of the old footprint. They currently have no access to their front door. Dimensions of the previous porch were 8 feet 4 inches by 3 feet 10 inches, and associated stairs that were 8 by 3 basically, and the footings were installed 48 inches below grade. So I would suggest that you find this to qualify as a small project and approve it under Category L with conditions that require pre-construction site inspection to inspect erosion controls and ensure that stockpile areas are outside the buffer or within erosion control area, and a post-construction inspection to verify compliance and approve erosion control removal. And I do believe one of the applicants is here this evening, I think. Oh, hi.
Okay, Ryan?
No questions.
Joe?
No question, just for the caution, I mean, you guys know, because you live there, you're right next to your septic system, so obviously prevent the problem, be very careful.
Okay. I just have a question for you, Amy. It says here, the proposed veranda would have a a roof as well
No.
as a concrete footing?
No, that's a
that in
different
the bu-
project, different project.
Different, but is it in the, oh, this one's already been approved?
No, I think you skipped over. I think you're on,
Wrong filing.
You're on Appleton.
Oh, I'm
You're in
sorry.
Appleton.
I'm
We're
sorry.
on Mill Road.
you're gonna do Mill Road.
They're stuck together. Yeah, they stuck together. I'm
They stuck
sorry.
together,
I have
okay.
no questions.
Okay.
I have numbers as well.
I just wondered, I know they applied under A and B, but you think it's an L?
I think it's an L because it's a front porch. It's not really a deck.
Okay,
It's gonna have a roof, so,
fine by me.
yeah.
So I move that we grant the small project request for 43 Mill Road, NACC number 315 under section L with the conditions that were articulated by our administrator.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one
Thank
is
you.
NACC 316, 183 Appleton Street.
Want to lead with your question?
Huh?
You want to lead with your question?
No, no, I'll wait let you guys go. You're probably gonna ask the same question anyways.
Alrighty. So we have Peter Blaisdell with Williams and Sprague here this evening with us. I'll give an overview and you can ask him any questions. So the project involves installation of a veranda with a patio underneath within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. And that's associated with an existing in-ground pool and surrounding patio. And there's an existing pool house that this veranda is going to wrap around. Let's see, the corner of the new patio and veranda will be about 94.6 feet from the wetland and only disturb 35 square feet of the buffer. And it's all within pre-existing lawn area, and the site is very flat, level topography. Proposed veranda will have a roof and concrete footings for support. In addition to the existing pool house is proposed, but that work is outside of your jurisdiction. And all the work is planned to be done by hand without using heavy machinery, and erosion controls are proposed. Do you have any questions? I'll just let you know what my recommendation is. Find the project to qualify as a small project. And I thought the most appropriate category is F for patios and L for other projects, and requiring that a pre-construction site inspection be held to inspect erosion controls and ensure that stockpile areas are outside the buffer, and a post-construction inspection to verify compliance and approve removal of erosion controls.
Thank you. All right.
We reviewed the wetland line and we found it to be accurate.
No questions.
Joe?
So I'm looking at the plan, I just need a clarification. It shows, the plan shows an existing shed and a relocated shed. Is that from a prior filing, or is that part of this project?
No, I believe that's from, it's already been moved. I'm not 100%
It's
sure.
moved, yeah.
So that's
I got-
prior, that's from some other action?
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw that it was in the no build, so I had to move it.
So the existing shed is no more?
No, there's two sheds, there are.
Okay.
But the one that was relocated was in the 50. And I said, before you come to the commission for this application, you have to move your shed. So then
Okay.
they moved it and then they put it on the plan
So
where it is
these
now.
are, in fact, what's there now in
Yes,
existing condition? Okay.
yes, yep.
So I think I just would change, just for the record, to make sure it's clear, just change that notation so that it says existing shed. Call them both existing, because it's already been relocated?
I think Thor just called that out just to let you guys know that it had been moved out of there.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it almost looks like it's part of the filing.
I do see, I think he just wanted to make sure you guys knew that it had been taken care of.
Looks like the erosion controls are, yeah, I'm all set, otherwise, it's very good.
All right, so the veranda's not an issue as far, I just was curious on the, it says concrete footings, they're gonna actually put an actual footing Whether you use sonotube?
Yeah, that needs support, because it'll.
That's
it's
my
gonna-
understanding, yeah, just to support the weight of the roof and the loading on it, they're gonna be.
So they're not building an actual footing?
I mean, like, I don't know exactly what the construction is, but I think it could be sonotubes. I don't think, you were talking about strip footing, Lou?
Yeah, like a
No,
regular?
no, just probably sonotubes.
Okay. So we know that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I did forget to ask the question, but I think I know the answer. Architecturally, a veranda, what do we have here? We have a patio at grade. We have what would otherwise be an open deck, except a veranda has a roof over it.
Yeah.
So this is a porch with a roof over it.
Yes.
Okay, but they're all in the same line.
Right.
Okay. Jack?
How many posts and footings are you requiring under this?
I wish I was my father, who was a registered architect, because I don't know. So I don't know how many they're gonna put in.
But it looks like,
I would think in your 100-foot buffer, there's probably only gonna be
One.
one. And then, if I had to guess, I would say 8 feet on center or something of that matter.
right, so it's really
So
just,
there's probably only gonna be, I'd say, like I said, in that 35 square feet there could be more than one or two.
No more questions?
Sean?
The patio itself and/or the veranda over it, do you know what the dimensions are?
Roughly, sorry, I don't have the plan in front of me. So I think it's,
I think it says 15 by 38,
yeah,
39.8?
39.8 one way, and I think it's 31 the other way, so.
Oh, that's like 40 by 30.
Yeah, and then take out some of the area for the pool house that's already there. I don't know if Thor actually put the, hang on one second.
Anybody?
Sorry, I kind of got called off the bench a little bit today. This,
that's like- yeah.
So it's about 1,200 square feet, and about 35 square feet of it's in our jurisdiction.
About that,
The way it
yeah.
plays out.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay, if there's no more questions, need a motion?
I move that we grant the small project permit request for 183 Appleton Street, NACC 316, under subsection L, with the conditions provided by our administrator.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you, you all
thank you,
set.
everybody.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, next one, NACC 317-36 Buckland.
Oh, an L and F. Actually, can we just back up on that
Oh, sure.
and approve it under an L and an F for patio and, so L would be the veranda and F would be the
Everything,
patio.
Okay.
Just,
Well, I mean, it's an F, it's a 1,200 square foot patio. I know only 35 square feet of it's in our buffer.
true.
So
It doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't matter.
we'll just leave it as an L.
Okay, that's fine.
All righty.
That's fine.
All right, NACC number 317,
It doesn't.
36 Buckland Road.
All right. Okay. Alrighty, this is an in-kind replacement of the existing deck boards with Trex decking and replacing the handrails with vinyl railing. That's all the work that's being done on this deck, this rear deck. No ground disturbances proposed, footings and posts are in good shape. There are no stairs that reach down to the ground, so it's simply new decking and railings. So this is one of the densely, God bless you.
Bless you.
Densely zoned neighborhoods built in 1995, so the standard setbacks to the wetlands weren't adhered to or required. And the deck is approximately 30 feet from the wetland resource area. Recommendation to find this as a small project and approve it under Category B with only a post-construction inspection to verify compliance.
All right,
No questions.
No questions.
I have one. Does this require a building permit?
Yeah, actually, yes.
It does.
Yes.
On each project, moving forward, if we get input, like it says here, just doing the decking,
Yeah,
and they're saying that everything else is structurally sound,
Yeah.
it'd be nice if we get the building inspector, when he issues the building permit, to say that it is structurally sound,
right.
so that we don't get in the
Yep.
pickle ahead of time, allowing the decking to be put on, and then come to find out that
Yep.
Got a curiosity on that point. So we consider a project a small project, we approve it. Is there a mechanism to modify it, or to come back for an amendment after the fact, if the building inspector says in fact it's not structurally sound?
we'd have to ask the architect of
attorney.
the small
One of the
project.
architects
in-house
of small
attorney.
projects.
Did you get that, Sean?
Yep.
Is there a mechanism for that?
No, I don't think there is.
So
So-
to your point, Lou, was to flush all that out ahead of time, because if the building inspector say, hey, no, you gotta take it right down to the footings,
No, it's a different
they gotta come
ballgame.
back, they gotta come back to us.
Yes.
And it's, even though we're likely to say yes again, but, it should have been, it should almost need to be flushed out before they come here.
Yeah.
Again, it's a technicality on our end, on the administrative side.
One of the
Even
step-
even if they do need new footings, we could
Well, no.
potentially approve it to allow for it, because it would be totally approvable if they were proposing it.
Well, it'd be a different construction thing. It'd be like different, more disturbance with trucks
Yeah.
and lumber and stuff like that.
But I think you're saying it would be a new application as opposed to amending
Well,
this
it's not-
one. So
Or
it would-
a condition of this approval that footings would be allowed as long as a pre-construction is done and erosion controls are installed.
But you didn't require, your recommendation is silent on erosion controls for a
True.
decking project.
True, because,
But it,
right,
that's the fly
No, I
in the
get
ointment
it.
here.
I
is-
mean,
Right.
it wouldn't hurt to have if the building inspector's got to issue a building permit, it wouldn't hurt them come out and come back to you and say, Amy, the structure is
Right.
all set.
right.
And then that would eliminate the second issue. Because conceivably, we could deny it because of land disturbance
Yeah,
or construction access or,
it's a different set of facts.
yeah, and it might not be, now it's gone from a small project to a potential RDA.
Well, I don't think so. No,
No,
you
'cause
guys
it
still,
be a small
no,
project.
it can still
Replace
be.
an existing deck
Yeah.
within the rules, as long as you're
Right.
able to protect it. Oh, what, can't be closer than 50 feet?
Right.
Well, this
I
is a
was
little
gonna
thing
Yeah,
I
but
didn't
this
want to
is-
get too far into, because if you read our application here, it says right at the beginning that located outside the 25-foot NDZ or 50-foot NBZ. And this
Well-
is
This is
within the,
neither.
It is,
Oh, and it's outside
however-
the nose stir,
yeah.
but not outside the 50.
But it's a development that,
It is, I mean, so if
So
you're
it-
going to
I
rewrite
don't
this,
agree
which I
with
think
that
we're
at all.
talking about doing, that would be something we would want to put in, maybe make a note about that. That
Right.
when we look at this, we put in an exception for.
for these
tightly-
types of
yeah.
developments,
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I'm not trying to open up a can of worms for this project, but I'm saying when
No, I
somebody
get
says,
it.
oh yeah, we're just gonna put the new decking
Yep.
on,
Yep,
and then they get up and all the rafters are rotted and the posts to the supporting
Yep,
deck are
yep.
junk.
We're like, we need to put in a whole new foundation.
So let me ask you this. The typical process would be a homeowner would come to the building department and say, hey, look, I want to do a deck. You do whatever. They go through a Form U. That's how you probably found out about this. The homeowner didn't come to you first, right? Did it come through building first?
did you? He did, yeah.
He did come through,
He
all
did
right.
come to me first,
All right, so
yeah.
this wouldn't have been flushed out. So Louis is on point, but it's almost like not a big issue on this, just that if the building inspector says you got a problem, he has to come back.
Well, then maybe when we revise this process, then that's a requirement that people have to do before they even apply with us, to make sure that they're covering all their bases.
But,
Or it's a condition.
Yeah,
Or
we
it's a
could
condition.
conditionally approve this.
Right.
pending.
yeah, but in the interim, it wouldn't hurt to
Yep,
ask Paul to
Yep.
give you some feedback. Okay, so this one's, we need was it a two-fold thing we need on this one?
No, I think
Oh,
we
just
should-
the, oh, that was the last one.
We haven't modified the small project bylaw
right.
yet. So this, as approvable as this is, it's, I don't think it complies with the small project.
Actually, on discussion, I
Are
think
you
it
joking?
does. Because even though we had a bylaw in place in town, This particular development came through under a high-density PRD, if you remember. This is part of Meadowwood, right?
Yeah, it's not a 40B,
This came in as a, not, it wasn't a 40B.
it wasn't a
yeah,
40B, but it was
a
special
high-density-
zoning
yeah,
passed by town
Didn't even
meeting.
It was a
have
PRD.
I don't
Something
think we
like
had
that,
40B
yes.
then.
It wasn't 40B, it was, yeah, PRD. And because of that, we granted permission for decks and things to get as close as they did.
Yeah.
Therefore, it complies. To replace it in kind, but under a small project, within the same footprint, I think it is a small project because our first action allowed it to be.
I get your logic, I don't know, it seems like we have a conflict with the wording of the bylaw, of the small project bylaw. Because I mean, if it says no, I thought it said no waivers are required.
That is, yeah, this is the
Well, this
application
is-
checklist, but I do think the bylaw
But
does say.
it's already waived through the subdivision
That's what I'm saying. The
process.
waiver was granted back
That's what
then.
you're saying, yeah.
It's really the language of the application checklist.
But it says that, oh, that's the checklist, right. So does the bylaw itself say waivers, refer to waivers or setbacks like the checklist does?
The checklist pretty much follows the language of the provisions for this process,
Okay,
almost verbatim.
so it probably calls out the 25-foot no disturb, 50-foot no build, and 75-foot no build on ephemeral pools.
I didn't mean to open up a can of worms.
Well, I was gonna
It's-
bring,
I think it's a valid.
gonna bring that up anyway. So the alternative is to push it to an RDA?
I disagree.
I think it's a small project.
No,
It's
still
a small
I
project.
think it
Because
is.
it's replacing kind. So all you're doing is redecking an existing deck. It's not
The issue of whether we were complying with the bylaw or not was addressed at the original filing. The house that was built, assuming it's as built,
Yeah,
as
that's,
approved.
we have
So
an
about
as-built
that,
plan.
with that being a known fact, we already granted the waiver, so the allowance of that deck to be where it is was done in 1995. Not an error made, done deliberately, what was
Right,
allowed in the
right.
town back in the day. I think the only two people who were the commission, Jack and I, at that
Yeah.
time.
And Al,
And Al. So that being the case, and now coming to replace something that's deteriorated exactly in kind in the exact same location, I don't believe requires a waiver. It was already granted.
Well,
So therefore, I think I would argue that the small project doesn't
It
apply.
is, and I think it's onerous to require an RDA personally.
no, and it's not really an
Especially if we're
in-kind.
gonna let it happen anyway.
It's
Right.
not,
Lou, I think we have a comment from an abutter.
This isn't really technically a public hearing, but you can allow comment if you want to.
okay. We have anybody that wants to comment? Would you come up here and give us your name and address, whatever?
I don't know if I'm on a butter, but I just think something's logical. I'm Frank Godin, I live at 14 Minecrest Drive, not the Andover. What if you just had them strip off the railing and the decking and have the frame inspected before they start to put the new stuff back on, just in case there's anything that needs to be supported or fixed, that's all. And that'd be real quick and easy, and then they can move on.
That's what we're talking, that's what
That
we're
is, all
talking.
that's before us right now is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's just that how close to the wetland it is whether that can be allowed or not, and I'm arguing it can be. And we're not arguing as much as we're debating it, because
Right.
Just saying, have the town inspector look at it, at the framing before you start to put anything new back on there, that's all. That should hold the project up.
That's why I asked the question. It'd be nice to get the feedback from the building inspector, that he said that the structure as a whole is fine. It's just, it needs to be redecked. Perfect.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
should be.
that's all.
That's all I'm trying to get, but right now, we don't have a tool to,
Do you have them here?
if he gets into it and says, oh geez, the rafters are all funky and the footings are broken or whatever, now it's a different ballgame.
Yeah.
So that's why it'd be nice to have the building inspector, just to give Amy some feedback, say, the structure's fine.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is just have it
Yeah.
inspected before he moves forward with the.
this is such a simple project. it's almost, it kind of points to the ridiculousness of some of our requirements. The reality is, every single project we put out there, if someone comes in and wants to build an addition, there's an assumption that the soil conditions are adequate, how wide the footing's gonna be, how close it needs to be. So we all work within those windows of expectation that the building inspector will ultimately approve what's gonna be built. If there's something that changes, they do always come back. So your question, I think, is legit, only to the point that if he says there's more work that needs to be done, we don't have the way to simply reopen it and grant the modification. This one, they would simply have to refile at that point. It's the same thing. Building inspector, he says you need to do it, they come back. If he doesn't say you need to do it, they've got their permit.
Okay,
I don't think it's any more complicated.
no. But it would be nice if we know. But,
Yeah, and, you know, in our discussion, I'm not arguing the logic of your point, Joe and Lou. I totally agree with it. I just don't want to overlook the conflict we have with the wording of the small project bylaw, which looks like it's pretty clear, according to the checklist.
Does the bylaw specifically say 25, 50, and 75? If the language just says no disturbance zones,
That's what she's trying to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
then that's a little more, that would encompass this.
And I know the intent was no waivers required. Well, when it went through.
well, like I said, I agree with Joe as far as the, that it's approvable only because it was approval when it was first built, based on where it was, and there was wiggle room in those areas. You know the area that we're talking about.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
By Myron College. We've had several come before us and stuff that's been there.
Big trouble.
But it's,
Can't find a small project in town.
It's somewhere.
but it's existing, and all it is just redecking.
Yeah.
I was just asking a question that, not this, I'm not saying this project, I'm just saying some projects that we don't know what the structure, the contract, oh yeah, the structure's fine, but we don't know that. And the building inspector's gotta go out there to issue a building permit anyways, so all he has to do is say, Amy, it's not, they need complete construction.
Yep.
Not just the decking, that's all I was saying. But anyways, so is there any more discussion on this project?
Well, just my thought on, oh, she's found it.
So, projects include.
Oh, I'm trying to look it up too, you got it?
Oh, oh.
$25 filing fee. Required.
For those in the public wondering, we're not looking blindly into space. We have a monitor down here. We don't have to turn our backs to look at that one. We can look at that one.
Yeah, we're watching cartoons.
Projects.
Well, these procedures shall apply to projects.
Exclusive of the applicable buffer zone
Exclusive of the
setbacks.
applicable buffer zone setbacks as provided in the
So
wetland regulations.
So there is the fact that we previously waived it, therefore it meets that definition, right?
So why does the checklist
Applicable.
say 25, 50, and
I don't-
75?
I don't know.
So-
I don't know.
Yeah, we might want to.
I
So the
inhe-
checklist
I
is a
inherited
guide.
that.
It's not it's nothing that no formal document.
Yeah, I mean, the regs would supersede for sure. So I think it would be basically whatever the respective established
Yeah,
no disturb, no
Yep.
build zones are.
Setbacks.
So we're good.
Yep.
All right, so we need a motion.
So I'm gonna take a shot at this. I move that we consider the filing for 36 Buckland NECC number 317 as a small project under category B. Start there.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's
And I-
unanimous.
And I move that we
Could you
approve.
distribute that to the commission? Yeah.
I move that we approve that project as, under that category, as a small project. And under the conditions stated, which is only pre-construction inspection,
post-construction.
post-construction.
Yep.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Great.
I wasn't trying to signal you out, I was just asking a question moving forward.
All good questions.
No, I just, because sometimes we can end up in a pickle. So you're all set. Thank you. Okay, RDA, 922 Dale Street.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so the project involves demolition of a section of an existing barn called the Annex, measuring 32 by 67, a portion of which is located within the 100-foot buffer zone to BBW. At its closest point, the barn annex is 60 feet from the wetlands, based on staff measurements in the field, with about 40 feet of the 67 feet of the barn in the buffer zone. The annex is primarily supported by cinder blocks and wood piles. The bottom of the annex is above ground, and so you can see through it. There's no real foundation to speak of. The annex will be scavenged for salvage wood to be stored to the west and used to improve the remaining portion of the barn interiorly. Waste material will be temporarily stored to the west and taken to TBI for ultimate disposal. When demo is complete, the ground underneath will be seeded and allowed to revert to a naturally vegetated state. Erosion controls will be installed, and I would suggest that it be at our direction and no closer than 50 feet from the wetland. The applicant is here this evening if you have direct questions for him, but I would recommend closing the hearing and issuing a negative number 3 with conditions that require 50 feet of erosion controls to be installed no closer than 50 feet to the wetland, pre-construction meeting with the applicant and the contractor to inspect installed erosion controls and review proposed plan, which includes ensuring that we all know where the stockpile is to the west, and then post-construction inspection to verify compliance, stabilize conditions, and approve the removal of erosion controls.
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, so the wetland line here, does that, like sort of turn east? So I'm looking at flag A10 at the end of the wetland line?
It kind of goes like that and then
It
around.
goes away
So that
from
is
the
the
pro- that is the
closest.
closest.
That is the closest.
Okay. And then do we know if the work, will material be removed from the wetland side? In other words, will like something be staged between the wetland and the barn to remove stuff, or will it sort of happen from the other side, pulling away from the
Let me
wetland?
see if I can get, I thought we had an aerial. Well, access will be through the driveway
Okay,
to the west, which is on the other side of the barn. So the driveway's between the house and the barn,
yep.
and not on the wetland side.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's my only concern is just it'd be preferred to, if they could demolish it from the
The-
driveway
the
side.
west side.
And pull materials
Exactly.
away as opposed to pulling it toward the wetland.
Exactly.
Materials toward the
Right.
wetland, so.
Do you understand what he's
Yeah.
saying? Okay.
That's all I have.
Joe?
So these sketches and stamped plans and stuff that he had, these are just for reference only. These are old plans.
Right,
and
right.
Thank God, because I went to Richard Tancar's funeral like 15 years ago. So what are the pictures underneath? I'm not sure if it's clear enough to me, but it looks, it's the last photograph before the aerial, if you could scroll to that.
Okay.
It's the most blurred picture on the one
Oh,
that's white.
oh, oh, oh. I think it's probably that one.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so there's an image that runs diagonally there that looks like a pipe. Do we know what that is, and is that you know,
Yeah, that's drainage.
Joe, why don't you come up and
Sure.
introduce
Right
yourself?
here or over here?
Wherever.
Whatever works for you.
The gutters on the roof drain under there, and that just removes any water. That area there is probably, maybe 40 feet or so from that 100-foot limit of
so my
the,
question,
of the
that's what I
wetlands.
thought it looked like, as blurry as it is.
Yeah.
So my question is, given the demolition of the superstructure, what's the intent of dealing with that? Is it gonna remain? Is it gonna be
No.
defeated? Where does it go? How
No,
are they
that
taking
that
it
was
out?
probably put in about 15, 20 years or so ago, because I noticed that there was some piles of, there's little pools of water after a torrential downpour. And so I had that put in, and the area under that part of the barn, since it was put in, is pretty dry. There's nothing to it. It's probably about, I'd say about 4 inches in diameter. It's flexible.
So the reason why I asked the question is, what may appear on the surface, no pun intended, to be a simple demolition of a superstructure of a barn, and repurposing of the wood elsewhere. What we really have is what's left is a hole in the ground, or some sort of area that never used to collect water, or even marginally collected water, and now it's gonna be conveyed somewhere by this pipe. What's the intent? Is it an RDA? Does it discharge to the wetland?
Well, the pipe would be removed. It's a plastic corrugated pipe. You
Yes,
just take
it
it
is.
out and
Yeah.
call it a day.
Well, where does it go? I mean, how far are they taking it out?
I don't know.
That corrugated pipe drains the water from under that section of the barn. I don't know if I can go any further than that. I have a number of pictures here.
Does the
too, that
wetland
I-
to the, does the
Yeah,
wet,
why don't
does the wetland go to the back where that pipe would typically direct?
So if you look at this picture, the wetland's over here.
Yeah.
So the pipe
So the
ends
pipe-
sort of
Yeah,
on
I
the
didn't,
edge of the
I
house,
did not
but
see
the
pipe out here, so
No.
it probably
So
stops
it just
short
moves it
from
outside the,
underneath.
underneath
Yes.
the building. It doesn't, it's not trenched, it's not going further back towards the wetland.
No,
No.
no,
Again, all that from a blurry picture, but,
yeah.
you know.
A couple things I want to point out too, and I have a number of pictures here. That barn annex, I guess for lack of a better word, referred to it as annex, was built 89 years ago. And, by the way, my house is the oldest house in North Andover. The deed is 1688, but that's only 89 years old. I've lived there for about 25 years or so. An absolute money pit, everything. And this barn here, I literally spend tens of thousands of dollars on just to keep it standing. You can see a little bit about the roof. The roof, the rafters are 12 feet apart. It's a design flaw. There should be 8 feet. So you can see the purlins that I just said. The purlins of between the rafters are all bent. Many of them I had straightened out, came to replaced over the years. Again, $100,000 just for the roof itself. The side wall is pulling out a little bit. Put a plumb board. It's pulled out about 18 inches or so. It's just a matter of time before it fills. It's an absolute eyesore. And what I want to do is not add on to or reconstruct, just to take the thing down. Take it down. Take it out altogether. Go back to the wetlands. And I've been working with the Conservation Department. We're talking about special seeds and so forth for natural grass. It's simply got to go.
So my question was very specific. What on the surface looks to be demolition of a barn, which would be certainly a RDA, what we're left with is a hole in the ground. What was the basement area beneath that barn annex? And what's the intention? Is it to regrade it? Is it to just simply leave the
No.
hole there?
No, seed it and let it grow naturally.
I don't
mean,
think it's ever
that's-
been excavated
yeah.
at all, because you can see underneath it that it's on stilts. The stilts are either granite or wood, and you can see around the sides that you have cinder blocks on 3 of the sides. So I don't think it. I just think it was built on that section of the land. Period. without
Go
any
back to the
excavation at
blurry-
all.
Again, I don't wanna beat the heck out of this thing, but go back to the blurry picture. Next one, I
Okay.
think.
So that's a crawl space.
You can walk right under this.
It's the next picture, isn't it?
Yeah, on that.
That one.
Right there.
You're gonna fill it?
Yeah, so that's my point.
Well,
You're saying you're gonna seed
loam-
it, but it's
loam
all
it,
rock.
seed it,
It's all
loam it,
bony
seed
and
it.
hole, and there's like holes
Yeah,
enough water. that the pipe
It's
was
rocks
necessary.
on dirt. Much of that probably was the way it was when it was built 89 years ago. You can also see here too, we're looking at a number of the stilts. I put like a half a dozen wall columns there. The stilts closest to us, I believe, are granite. And I had them repositioned over the years.
I understand the necessity, why you're justifying why it should be done, and I don't disagree one bit. What you're here before us before is to get a permit to do the work. There's multiple ways you can get a permit. One is through a full-blown NOI, which is more land disturbance, more things. And the things that are less onerous, like RDA, like maybe there should be, until we look at, and the question I'm asking is, what is the intent of restoring the land that's beneath this bond once the bond is gone? Is it gonna be regraded, or is it gonna be left rustic as this and just throw some seed in and hope it grows on the rock? If it's moving the rock around, it's rock disturbance.
Basically whatever it takes. Again, I don't think that soil has been disturbed since that part of the bond was put in place.
But that's what you're supposed to tell us what it's gonna take.
That's what Mr. Lynch is trying to say.
We're gonna issue a permit that gives you permission to do things, and only those things, and not other things.
Yeah, are you
So
gonna
if
leave the, underneath the bond, what you see, the picture there, are you gonna leave it like that?
Underneath it,
Yeah, after you rip the bond down, the way you see.
I was planning to leave it pretty much like that, natural, yes. But if the
But to
conservation
seed it,
department wants
because
me to
it's
do
all
something
dirt,
with
there's
it, then I
nothing can grow
will.
underneath it.
Because what happens, if you wanna do that, you know, fix it up or clean it up, it brings you into a RDA, because now
No,
we got a
This-
condition.
there already are in
This
in
isn't
RDA.
RDA.
Oh, it
This
is
isn't
an
RDA.
RDA, I'm sorry.
But depending to what extent, it could kick it into an NOI, because it's within 60 feet. Would we allow that kind of action to be done within 10 feet of the 50-foot no build, of the 25-foot no disturb? Again, it's all existing law and beyond that, I think it is. I'm done. I think you guys understand my issue. Again, you can ask follow-up questions that might, give me a different opinion, but I think we don't have, I don't have an understanding of what it is they intend to do, because if we're going to give them permission to dismantle the barn and take the stones and the lally columns and the superstructure out and leave it as is, then that's what the permission is we'll grant, but nothing else. Because I'm not hearing it. I'm hearing whatever it takes. We don't issue permits, whatever it takes.
I'm not planning at this particular time, based upon discussions that I had with your department, to do anything other than pretty much leave it like it is. Because that is the way that it was when this section of the barn was added.
All right, so we were allowed 3 conditions.
Rule of thumb, no more than 4.
So, one of the conditions can be that it has to stay the way it is.
You guys, ask
Do you have any
questions and I'll
My question is the, like I said, it's hard to when you said you're gonna take it down and you're gonna use some of the lumber and you're gonna stockpile it. Is there an area outside the buffer that they can stockpile it?
Yes, the plot is 5.5 acres, and there'll be no problem at all stockpiling it. Plus the fact the demolition is gonna cost me about $20,000. Will only take a couple of days.
Well, you, Amy said you were gonna use some of it or sell some of it, or how long is the stuff that you wanna keep gonna stay? That's why I'm saying, as long as it's out of the buffer, it can stay there for 100 years, I don't care. So.
There'll be nothing in the buffer within 3 days of starting to
Well, so what we'll
demolish the
do is
barn.
when Amy comes to the pre-construction, she'll designate a spot to
Yeah, so
stockpile the stuff.
access will be through the driveway between the house and the barn. They'll access demo this stockpile area that's out of the buffer at this point.
Jack?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hearing the discussion that the applicant wants to basically let that crawl space, the dirt surface of that crawl space resort back to natural conditions after the removal of the annex.
Correct.
That could be the
And I
third
think
condition.
I may have been the one to suggest seed it with some native seed mix
Yeah, I
and
mean,
call it a day.
I mean, I would think that it would be consistent that it would be consistent for us to just condition that, and if the applicant, if that's the applicant's intent anyway, I don't see a conflict. My only comment prior to that was on the erosion control being placed 50 feet from the wetland line. That probably goes without saying, but it should be, you know, between the work and the wetland line.
Right, right.
Directly between.
Yeah,
so that-
absolutely.
So that
Yeah, to-
access on that side is,
Right, I mean, like
Restricted and-
enveloping it like this.
and then any erosion that comes from the disturbed soil would be contained with the erosion control.
Right.
That's really all I have. But I think we have it.
No questions?
I just have one more question. The annex is attached to the house?
Attached
The bond,
to
as
the
you can
barn.
see,
the
the two sections of the bond are perpendicular to each other, and they are directly attached.
They are attached?
Yes.
So when you, so there is a wall inside? Or is it
There is a
open?
wall inside.
I mean, so is that gonna require construction on that side?
Unfortunately, yes, it has to be reinforced.
And that's in the buffer?
Yeah,
That's
what
the
does
buffer.
that entail, Joe? Can you explain what reinforcing means?
Yes, the section of the annex, the beams are only 6 inches by 6 inches, and the other section, I have some 12 by 12s. And there is some rot, and some of them will have to be replaced. So when the barn is demolished, part of that wood is pretty good. And it'll be going to TBI, and it'll be recycled. And I'm looking at selling, or at least giving away some of it. It's mortise and tenon. It has the wood pegs in it.
I guess we're just trying to figure out, what does reinforcing mean? What does that look like?
To
It's-
assure that it's gonna be-
additional.
to
Oh, I
assure
know,
that-
but exteriorly, what kind of work does that entail?
If I could just ask, so you got the house and then you got the annex, right?
Yeah.
When you take down that annex, are you gonna have to do any work to that where it met? Where the house and the barn?
Well, it's not
met?
the house, it's
The
two
barn.
sections of the
The
barn.
barn and the-
Yeah, yeah, well, a little bit of work is required.
What work
What-
exactly?
Well, if you go into the section of the barn that's going to be kept, there was a big sliding door. And on either side, there are posts. They're in pretty good shape. But some of the, not the beams, but some of the woods on the wall, it's in rough shape because there have been some leaks in the roof over the years. So that is going to have to be addressed. I don't think any of the posts will have to be taken out at all. But it's primarily the superficial work that'll be required.
Any more questions? To say this is an RDA is a stretch, but only because now that we got the conditions of the bond and the annex, they gotta rebuild that wall when they take the bond down, because it's gotta be, it's part of this building, it's part of this building. And I don't know where the buffer is.
Well, 60-foot setback to the annex, right?
Right.
All right, so the structure is in the 50,
No, it's not.
No.
between
Most of it
50
is
and 100.
outside the 60, the
This
closest
is
point
this is the wetlands. it says 60 feet from the wetlands. So you got 25 no disturb, and then you got another 50, so it's in the no build.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's 10 feet from the
There's about 1,200 feet of the barn.
It's
And
60
the-
feet
and the
out.
barn section to be taken down is 2,000 square feet
The wetland
roughly.
flags are there, right? So now we got 25 feet no disturb.
Yeah, but you don't add the 50 on top of the 75, they overlap each other. So it's 25 from the wetland boundary and then 50 from the wetland boundary.
Oh, so there's another 25? Five? No. Is it 25 no disturb,
I
50
can't
no?
read the plan.
Huh?
I can't read the plan.
I know.
Yeah, so,
25 no disturb and 50 no build.
right,
So it's 75 feet.
no, they overlap.
Let me make sure I can understand that, 'cause we're struggling with the plan.
Yeah,
We have a house that's detached,
right.
we have an old barn, and we have an annex to
I
the old
understand. I
barn.
know.
Right.
They're detached from the house.
Right,
They're gonna keep the oldest barn, the
Right.
antique, and dismantle the annex.
right.
The old one's historically significant, but it's still a barn.
Mm-hmm.
And where those walls joined back 80-some odd years ago,
Mm-hmm.
there's some question about when you take down the annex, what the condition of that wall is, called a marriage wall between the two
Mm-hmm.
barn areas. What needs to be done to that? That's what we're wrestling with, right? So we're not talking about the house at all, we're talking about the balance of the barn.
Correct.
The second part of the barn. And if I'm looking at the third sketch of the site, from that corner of where it says existing barn, the word existing is the annex, right? You go back to that sketch. So not that one, but the next one, right there, scroll up. So, where it says existing barn, if you
Right.
take the word existing, that's the annex.
That's right,
And the barn is the old antique barn.
that's right.
So we're saying it's 60 feet from the nearest flag
Yep,
to the annex, the work is within 60 feet. The same thing would hold true from that flag, if you will, to
Toward-
where the marriage wall is
That's
to the
right.
old building, the old
Exactly.
antique building.
Yes.
So it's still within the 60 feet. So whatever work is going to, whatever might be necessary
yep,
to shore up that older section of wall, once this is, uncovered, because I guess we don't know. There's gonna be something that needs to be, it may be foundation work, it may be shoring work, it may be just simply framing and siding work, we don't know. I don't think anybody knows, I'm not hearing it.
Would be a different file.
Different file.
Yep.
Of course, until you get into it, you might have to do something on the fly.
Yep. Or modification of
Yeah.
something, yeah.
There is, between the two sections, and it's only about 4 feet, maybe 5 feet height max. But there is a wall there, a stone wall, which is the foundation that supports both of the sections of the barn. And that will be left alone, as well as the 6x6 supports. But the wood across, again, some of the wood across is what has to be replaced.
So if the applicant were to polish up this application and include whatever woodwork, siding, framing that needs to be done, would it still be considered an RDA on top of all of this?
I think once you get into any sort of ground disturbance, I'd say no. Kicks it to an NOI.
I don't think he's proposing ground disturbance, so.
He said if you polished it up and
Well, polished up the application, meaning specify what additional framing or siding needs to be done on the existing barn.
oh, yeah, if you polish it up and it doesn't require any foundation work, I think it might still be an RDA, might be. But I don't have any confidence out of here that I know what that condition might be like.
I don't see the need for additional framing. It's all there. there is some lot, but not on the 6x6 post.
Yeah, okay.
The water's like I have sideboards that are like 1 by 12, and some of them are water, and they would have to be taken out. But the posts, I don't see replacing them.
What do you want to tell them?
I'm trying not to be, I know what he's trying to do, and I understand that, but I still have an issue with, once this barn is dismantled, what's in between these two buildings?
We don't know.
We don't know.
And he's not gonna be able to know either maybe till he gets there. So if we were to do this, I would say, let's look, if we think what is being explained to us today is an RDA, maybe we can grant it, but, make one of the conditions that there's no further work that is going to be allowed here other than the demolition of the barn itself. And any additional work is gonna require a refiling or a modification.
That's always implied, but in this case, maybe stating it emphatically just clears it up.
Yeah, because in this case, the applicant doesn't know what exactly addition is gonna be done. He's just saying, this is all I wanna do, and this is all I wanna do.
Well, the guy that's doing demolition work, is he stabilizing that outside wall? Or are you doing it?
He has stabilized us. I'm going to Fusion Construction and Masonry, and they're doing some work for me around my house right now, and they have stabilized that. As I said, I put I think 6 lolly columns underneath over the last several years for further stabilization.
I'll do whatever the commission does, says, but, because without knowing, I just,
Well, it's sort of a
Could we
catch-22,
do-
right? If you can't take it down to see what's there to be fixed, then raise
it's definitely gonna have to be repaired. I mean, they've been
Right.
together for 89 years, 90 years.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I mean, no doubt.
and he just been to some foundation work.
Yeah.
So, there's more to the apple than what we can see.
Right.
The foundation right now is again, it's on a wall right now. I don't see any foundation work at all. I have a suggestion. How about if I get together with the building commissioner
Well, you have to,
and tell them what I'm gonna do?
you have to get a demolition permit from the town anyways, right?
Yes.
From the building inspector?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, in that case, what I would suggest, if you don't want him to, because I don't think we should be doing an RDA because we don't have enough information. As much as I'd like to help the gentleman, so the other thing I would say is if we can continue it and have the building inspector do an assessment and tell us that
I
no
wouldn't
land disturbance is gonna be needed.
I wouldn't limit him to the building inspector because I don't know the building inspector would do it anyway. He might say, you need to hire your own structural guy.
Yeah.
Just, as long as they come back and give us an evaluation of, or a statement that says that there's nothing more that needs to be done. It's really all we need, doesn't really care who it comes from, as long as it's a professional.
Yeah. But I'll go whatever you guys agree to.
And once again, what I'm looking at is going back to where it was, the wetlands. If nothing happens, then eventually it will fall apart and I'll run out of money. I'm talking about adding to the wetlands. There is a base between these two sections right now. There is a wall there. I should have taken a picture of that. All the structural beams are in place, all the ways to the roof. But there isn't, I was honest, there is some rot on some of the boards between.
No,
And I've been thinking about replacing them myself over the years. I said, why bother? So what I'm looking to do is just leave the beams in place and replace the sections that are rotted. And that's pretty much it.
You still have to side the house.
Excuse me?
You still have to side the other side of the barn where the annex is coming off, right?
Uh,
I mean,
No,
there's gotta be an opening that goes right in.
Well, there was That's an interesting comment. There was a fire, I bought the house in 1996, there's a fire in 1995. It took down half the barn, there were a number of horses that were killed. And in the front, looking towards Dale Street, it's just sections of wood, that's all it is. Because you need insulation, you don't need heat there. I think they're like 1 by 10s. And that's basically what I have in the back of it right now, so I'm not gonna have to do much to it at all.
Okay.
I move that we issue a -3 determination with the conditions outlined by Amy to include install 50 feet of erosion controls, 12-inch mulch sock, pre-construction meeting with the applicant and our staff, post-construction inspection to verify compliance, and an additional condition that I would propose for this motion would be that no additional ground disturbance is permitted on this project.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Me too.
So that,
It passes.
Passes 3-2.
does it?
Don't we need 4 technically, or?
Nope,
No, no,
4
it's-
to make
no,
a
yeah,
quorum.
so- You're right.
Simple majority.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't correct me if I'm mistaken, but I'll be in contact with you
Yep.
and your department within the case.
Yep. Yeah, I'll prepare the the permit for you, and we'll go from there.
Okay, next one, 45 Hollow Tree Lane.
Evening, Commission, Brian
Excuse-
Peavy, applicant.
Excuse me, could we just, we'll do her recommendations, we'll have the questions here, and then we'll, if we have any questions,
Just gonna introduce
you might get
myself.
to just sit there and
Pretty
watch us.
straightforward application.
All right, so the applicant is looking to replace their current oil energy source, and they're proposing to install 3 120-gallon propane tanks in a line on 30 by 30 pads within the 50-foot of the BBW. Based on our site inspection and measurements, the closest pad will be 19.5 feet from the wetland. This location is up against the house on an the corner of the house. And it was explained to me that this location is required per the company that is installing the tanks, because it needs to be 10 feet or less to the entrance point to the existing boiler or the, in the basement. So we were looking around for at least a half an hour trying to figure out another place for it. And it doesn't work for that 10 feet, and it would be in the 25 anyway.
I meant with all the tanks together on one pad, right? 'Cause that's how it's proposed.
Yeah, that's in a line,
It should be just one they're closer together.
closer together, but I mean, this is just for visual. I mean, it's, you know, it's not perfect. Let's see. I'm gonna do some pictures here. So the wetland's on this side, and we're walking from the front of the house to the side here. And so it's this area where the tanks will be going. So it's within lawn area. And the connection would be underneath this lattice area. So that's a good picture. So I would recommend issuing a -3 and requiring the applicant as mitigation to plant no less than 4 native shrubs in the lawn area between wetland flag 1A and 2A, which is on the other side of the house, and then install wetland markers on posts as mitigation.
Right?
I think the mitigation is appropriate. I don't have any issues with that. Is the 10 feet like a regulation, or is it just based because of the way the system is designed?
I think
or?
it's how the system is designed in your basement.
Yeah, so it's really where the unit's gonna be installed in the basement to where the proposed tank location should be. They said it should only be a 10-foot run.
Huh, okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about it, so I just
Yeah.
didn't know if it was a regulation or just like something that could
Yeah, I think
potentially be
it's-
modified,
Yeah.
so, okay. That's all I have.
Joe?
My question was exactly parallel to yours, is that I know the location of propane tanks are really, on the exterior of a house, are driven by size and the fire department, proximity to windows and doors, and so there may be that one 10-foot requirement, but there's also another requirement the fire department uses. Have you had this preliminary review done yet? Because if we approve this location, which we're inclined to do, if the fire department says you can't put it there, you have to move it, you're coming back.
Right, so based on the propane service company, their recommendation is to place the tanks ideally there.
So you've got some confidence that this is the location. Okay, I'm all set.
Okay. Well, me being a propane, have propane in my house and my garage, both of them, probably, the garage is probably 50 feet away from the building. And my house is probably 30 feet away from my building. That's what, I don't understand that, the reasoning behind that. That has to be where where they're saying. The other question is, did you ever consider putting a tank in the ground?
No, I did not want to disturb any of the area.
So that would require excavation in the 25-foot no disturb zone.
Well, this requires a waiver also.
But what's
It's not a structure.
What's-
It's up against the house.
right? What's the least impactful?
I mean, he's got perfect place to put it. I mean, right where that lattice work is. Where you
Well,
put-
so the wetlands wrap around.
Yeah,
the
it's-
house
it wraps
and
around all
the
the-
entire
yeah.
yard almost.
They
is
should-
within
yeah,
25.
whether it's in the ground or
They're
not.
not gonna be able to put it outside the 25.
No, well, he's in the 25 already. You're
Right.
saying, right?
Right, but even moving it around to the other side of the house, to the right.
No, I'm saying right here. This is where he's putting them right here, right?
Right.
Yeah. So why not put it in the ground? He's going
So we're
for.
gonna go from this is turning into a debate rather than a hearing.
No, I know.
So, from a conservation perspective, I think digging the tank is more onerous. You have to keep it clear in the wintertime, so it's gonna be snow removal and whatnot for filling. The reality is, that one of the things you always wanna do is minimize future disturbance. So an in-ground tank, you don't own, they own. You are married to that company.
You can buy the tank.
You could buy the tank, or you can have them remove it, and usually the buyout is ridiculous. So I think an above-ground application here is far less onerous than
Yeah.
an in-ground.
Just a question. No, because I bought my tank before they put it in. So it's my tank. So I could throw them out whenever I want. Although I think I had to agree that I had to buy from them for 2 years. But that's okay, I'm just my own question. But as far as, I've never heard anything about that, a length,
The 10 feet?
yeah, I've never
Yeah,
heard
I
that
haven't
before.
And even taking that, where you were, Ryan, is even if you take that off the table, where else would you put it that would get it any further away?
Right.
Well, if you put it on the other side of the house, on the driveway side of the house, you'd be outside if you put it up against the house, you'd be outside the 25-foot no disturb zone.
We looked at that, it's not practical. Due to the height of the tanks and the overhang, and it just didn't make any
Well,
sense.
then
Didn't
we're
make
back-
any sense to me, but,
You're saying like next to the stairs over here on this
yeah,
side?
it doesn't,
Like-
Well, I mean, anywhere on that side, and it seems to make sense that when they go to change the tanks, or bring a truck to refill it, they're gonna use that driveway, I would think that that would be a logical place to put it, but, I question that, my first thought was why the 10-foot, requirement? And, I mean, did they give you documentation on that? Did they give you a letter or cite
It's in the quote.
like a code or something like that?
Not a specific code, just in the code, it's in the quote from the propane company, in terms of the location.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I don't think it meets the requirement for a waiver based upon the 10-foot statement, because I want something more solid than that. But I do agree with Ryan that I don't know where else you can put the thing other than where Jack mentioned on the other side. Which isn't perfect, that's for sure, but it's a tight lot.
Well, I mean, if it wasn't for the 10-foot requirement, there'd be several alternatives.
Like the front yard, yeah, I mean, that's where it would have to go, right?
Then we're back to my same thing. Put it in the ground if it's out of the 25, out of the 25.
Yeah.
You could put
Or
it,
outside of the 50.
you could put it in the 50,
Sure.
you know, right
Yeah,
here.
I agree. That's what I was thinking too. You are correct, sir. Now we know why you're talking about going underground.
And then it's easy, and it's easy in access to fill it.
Yep.
And all I have is a drum about this big. And they pick the flap up and they go and they fill it right there. Just looks like a,
Yeah, access hatch.
huh?
The access hatch, access manhole.
Yeah. I don't want, I shouldn't ask this question.
So Amy, is this delineation on here true? Because the 25, it looks like.
No, this is just for, you know, visual, and we did our own,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Now, back to the same thing, it's requiring a waiver.
Yep.
And a waiver is supposed to have an alternatives analysis.
Yep.
They do,
They do, but
there's a
they-
waiver.
You have one here?
But it's based upon 10 feet,
The 10-foot.
which we don't
I don't-
necessarily buy
All
into.
right, okay,
I agree, I think we
all
need
right.
something to back that up.
What's that?
I think we need something to back up that 10-foot.
I don't believe it, so I mean, I know firsthand that I have two places that the tank is more than 10 feet. I know my garage is gotta be,
So do we want to continue and ask him
So
to
propane
get
tank
something?
installation, Massachusetts, any tank greater than 125 gallon in capacity must be at least 25 feet from a building to begin with. That's
Say
125.
that
These are
again?
320 gallon separate tanks. I believe by staying below the 125, they can get closer to the 25. Even though in total, it's more
Right.
gallonage. I think each individual tank meets that threshold, but that, the 10-foot separation is for a buried 2,000 gallon tank. It must be 10 feet from the building. So that's where that comes from. And I'm just kept pulling it right out of Massachusetts regulations. It was from a propane company, but they're quoting regulations. Again, no code citation, it's just from their website. But it sounds like they can be up against the building. It doesn't say how far away from your sources, it's just where they can be. I think the local fire department may have a requirement of how close to a window, doorways,
10 feet.
ventilations, you know, those things all come into play too, so. I don't think we know yet until the fire.
Propane people to know that?
the building department, it's 10 feet of the fire department, it's 10 feet from a window or a door. I know it is because I did mine.
Yeah. And again, the location I'm looking at is where the tanks are, it's right below the two windows.
No. Well,
I don't know, I'm not sure we, you know, what we're asking, I think, is justify, tell us what regulation allows it to be where it is, and if that's the case, then we'll probably have something to hang our hats on.
Okay,
But if we don't have a requirement that says it has to be where it is, then we keep this
Right.
alternatives and discussion going.
all right. So we should continue and ask him to get more backup information that is actually verifiable instead of just,
Something in writing. Okay.
Okay, so let me just ask the commission then, so the alternate, we looked at alternate locations,
Mhm.
and there aren't any that are,
That are gonna get you really out of the 25.
right, we're still in the.
I mean,
within
right,
I mean, I don't even think, from a intuitive point of view, putting propane tanks at the edge of a driveway is a good idea either. I mean, snow, what if a brake goes, car crashes? I mean, I don't think that's really practical or wise, but whatever.
I don't.
So should we continue and ask them to get more information on the 10
Have it
feet?
continue, like I said, continue, because I think you can put it right here. On
Yeah,
the,
Mr.
Where?
Chairman, I
by
can't.
the,
I
by the
can't see where
septic
it-
system, up by the.
In the front?
Yeah, by the patio block driveway.
Well, they don't, who wants 3 propane tanks in front of their house?
Well, I'm not saying
in
that,
the-
I mean, what, you can put it in the
Ever been to
ground.
New Hampshire?
So you're gonna dig,
Yeah,
you're
but-
gonna dig next to the leach field for a propane tank? I mean, that's another ball of wax.
It's not, it wouldn't be near, it wouldn't be that near. Like I said, if we don't have that 10-foot requirement, which I don't think is true, there are other places.
It's part of the alternative analysis, explaining why it can't go there.
Okay, all right, let's continue asking for a better alternatives analysis.
Okay.
And more solid information on the 10 feet
Yeah,
or,
we definitely
You
need
know
something.
what we're looking
regulations.
for, so you can help guide them
yep,
through for the next
yep,
meeting, right?
yep.
Yeah, and if it's a regulation, it's a simple.
We
code
can hang our
No,
hat
I
on
know.
something.
Right, all right.
I have motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
All right, so we continue to December 13th, and we just need
I'm still having
a,
trouble.
a more in-depth analysis from you and more information that backs up the 10 feet requirement.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, next one is 1475 Turnpike Street.
No. What is this, all over the place?
Well, you went line when you said the tree guy destroyed the driveway.
Alrighty. Okay, this project is a driveway rehabilitation and expansion. And a very large, what happened is a very large tree fell on the house, requiring significant renovation and repair. So through that, the driveway that was already in bad shape got pretty well messed up. And what they'd like to do is rehab the existing and then expand so that they have room to back up and then drive straight out onto Turnpike instead of backing up into Turnpike all the time. So we've done on-site measurements where the existing driveway is about 18 feet from the wetland. The extensions are 34 feet and 39 feet, so they want to extend a walkway out front of the house and then do an extension on the side. So it would be a full reclaim of the existing and then installing additional paving.
No worries.
I'm sorry.
So I guess my first question is, don't they need a waiver for the driveway reclaim in the 25?
I don't know, I guess so. Well, I mean, it's an existing driveway that's been there for how long? I mean,
Okay,
why
yeah,
would you make them do that?
Just,
I'm just wondering, because it's like, how are they gonna get into their house? I don't get
I'm just
it.
asking from a procedural
Well, they're-
standpoint.
Yeah,
expan-
I
but they're
don't,
expanding
I
it.
didn't think so, but,
They're expanding away from the wetland, the opposite side of the driveway, right?
right,
So getting no closer.
they're getting no closer, the expansion.
Right. But they're doing work, I'm just saying they're doing work, but I thought it was a fair question.
That's all right. I mean, I didn't view it that way, because it's
Yep.
the driveway that's
I'm
been
all
there
set.
forever.
Yeah, I think the little twist of this is the expansion of the driveway, but I guess I understand certainly understand the safety need of it, and I'm more comfortable with understanding it's on the opposite side of the driveway, away from the wetland, so it's really getting no closer, so if someone came in, regardless of an emergency or destruction because of a catastrophic tree failure, we would let people repave a driveway in its existing footprint. We would allow that under 98, as long as it was in the
Yeah.
same footprint.
Yeah.
So I think it is that. The fact that we're probably extended that a little further by the extension or expansion to the other side, is any of that within the 25?
Not in the 25.
So that's all outside, the expanded area is
It's
outside
between
the 25.
25 and 50.
Yeah, it looks like it's just right outside of it.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with that. The safe
You can just see the
maneuvering
lines
of
there.
turning a car around is probably cheaper than an oil cleanup of a car getting broadsided backing out onto 114, adjacent to a wetland.
Right.
So
So
I
expand-
have no problem. I think it's an RDA, and I think it's approvable.
Why you think backing out into 114 is a problem?
Sometimes it's okay. Haven't figured out when that is yet,
Maybe like 2 in the morning, you might get away with it. Doubt it.
but I'm all set.
I'm all set.
Yeah, is this a residence?
Yes.
Yeah.
Single family house.
Just curious, why such a big driveway expansion?
Well, if you go to the property now, a lot of the existing land that was there was really badly torn up because of the tree trunks that came in. And we've always wanted to be able to, like you were saying before, we always have to back out into 114. So just to be able to kind of back out and,
Yeah, you have a good turnaround area.
yeah, turn around like that.
Seems quite ample. I don't have any other questions.
Well, I don't have any questions either, but I do appreciate where Ryan's coming from with, it's an expansion of the existing condition, and usually we do put that under the microscope and do an analysis concerning whether or not there's a waiver. And I know that driveways within 50, but outside of 25 is something that we can consider without going through the waiver process.
Right, but I think any expansion, like Ryan was saying, that's in and that incorporates part of the 25 should require a waiver. But this one we won't. All right, so if there's no discussion, your recommendation is to go for it, Amy, right?
Close the hearing, issue a -3, require pre-construction inspection to observe erosion controls as prescribed by the conservation staff, immediate removal of all reclaimed asphalt and any excavated materials within the driveway, the new driveway footprint, no stockpiling on site, and a post-construction to verify compliance and approve removal of erosion controls.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, all set.
Thank you.
Next one is a modification, 242-1873.
Alrighty. All right, so the commission will recall issuing an order of conditions in September of this year, and it governs the installation of a shed, a short retaining wall, a pervious paver patio under the existing deck, partially within the 50-foot no-build zone, for which a waiver was granted and planting mitigations provided, a front portico and driveway repave. The modification involves extending the patio by 11 feet, about 120 square feet, to the westerly side of the proposed patio, and this extension is going to be entirely outside the 50-foot no-build zone. It'll be easy to make sure they're out of the 50 because they're going to keep straight in line with the proposed patio, so it's basically a straight shot. That's it. So Will with Maureen Cameron is here this evening if you have any questions for him.
I'm all set.
Joe?
I'm all set. No more 1 foot this way, 2 feet that way, right? Yeah, we're done.
Jack?
I have no questions.
Mike? Sean?
Questions?
Motion?
I move that we that we approve the request for modification for 84 Candlestick Road, 242-1873.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. See, we don't beat people up all the time. Next one, NOI, 242, 1859, 0 Turnpike Street. I should have did that continuances first, but that's okay. Oh, before we open this up, there's a, existing enforcement order, and, I talked to Amy at Lent today, and it's kind of a crossover between the two, because I know we don't approve NOIs with an open order, but in this case, it might be good because we got a SWIFT and we got some detention areas that have to be keep maintained, and we don't know if we approve the NOI, if they're gonna start building it next year or next week, or, so that's why we decided to keep the enforcement order while we still here for the, hear about the NOI. Okay? Okay, Amy, fire away.
So at the last meeting, the commission requested the engineer to find out about the interplay between the proposed septic system and the surface detention basin. He's provided feedback relative to the stormwater standards, that there's a 50-foot setback between the two under the stormwater standards, and under Title V, there's an allowance for a 25-foot setback between the two, and they're maintaining those setbacks with the proposal. You also asked for copies of the SWIP inspections as well, so we got those. I do not have a draft decision ready if you were ready to close, so we'd have to continue, and I'd write that and have it ready for the December 13th meeting. But Peter Blaisdell with Williams and Sparagus is here
Let's
with
see
us
if we have
this
some
evening.
questions first. Ryan?
I'm all set. Yeah, Pete Wright asked a question about the separation of the septic versus retention. Is the presumption that those setbacks required under Title V and under the regs, stormwater regs, is it that precludes or prevents groundwater breakout, sidewall breakout?
Right, so both Middleton and North Andover, to the best of our knowledge, don't have any, that speaks to that, but Title V actually will say that if it doesn't intercept any groundwater, it can be 25 feet. Stormwater management policy would like it to be 50 feet, so that's what we did, we just made sure it's 50 feet. But it could be 25, but we just pushed it back as far as we could.
So it is back, it is at the 50,
It's beyond 50.
beyond 50, I'm all set, thank you.
Amy, are you, well, I can ask him, are you all set with Middleton as far as conservation and planning and zoning?
So the Conservation Commission did close, and I believe they issued an order on November 1st. North Andover Planning Board approved September 19th. I don't believe we were in front of the Middleton Planning Board. The ZBA they just want to see what's going on. We talked a little bit about the water, but they don't really have any other issues, and the water is kind of out of their purview. So I think we talked about it last time, that both the town of Middleton and North Andover would like to connect the water in front of the property, because I guess both towns have that long length of dead end. So it sounds like it's mutually beneficial for both towns to connect those. They're just trying to work out the details on how to do that, because Middleton, as you know, gets its water from Danvers, and North Andover, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, is it MWRA?
No,
It's,
No.
Lake Kachiko.
thank God.
it's Kachikoit?
Lake Kachiko.
So my understanding is, Chris and I were trying to figure out who got your water to you. My understanding is the treatment of the water for Middleton is a little bit different than the treatment for the water for North Andover. So I guess they want to talk about,
So American Water Works Association
Yeah.
recommended to municipal connections for emergency purposes.
right, and that's what
It's a
they're,
guideline.
what they want to do.
Nobody ever wants to connect the systems because water quality is often compromised whenever
Right.
that's open.
So my understanding
Who's
is,
operating on which grade line?
yeah.
we-
So
it's out of
in a
our-
perfect world, I guess what they would like to do is they would like to connect both towns together. They would like to have some type of emergency override, so that if there's a water break maybe down in Middleton, and, you know, we're not leaving people stranded down here without water, you know, it can, a gate can be opened up, maybe to allow water to go back to them, and vice versa with North Andover. How they're gonna appropriate that yet, no, they don't know, but they are working it out. So the ZBA in Middleton, by understanding, really doesn't have any other issues. They just want to see how that's worked out. It's being worked out.
And even if that were required, or someone wanted to do it, that's all outside the 100-foot buffer zone for us anyway.
I believe it is, yeah.
Yes.
It's up in the roadway.
Yeah.
It's actually in 114.
Yep.
So it's beyond the resource area.
Yep.
It's almost a moot point for this hearing.
Well, it's a valid question. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I just want to make sure all the boards of both towns.
So the only thing that, the only board that has not approved it yet is the ZBA in Middleton, and they don't have any other outstanding comments except for the water, which I don't think is their purview anyways. I think it's the Department of Public Works of both towns, so.
The reason why we're hesitant when stuff is like this is because we can approve stuff and then planning comes along and says, well, we don't like this, we're gonna move it, and it changes the whole thing over.
Luckily, your planning board approved it already, so
Right,
you're good
all
there.
good. I have no other questions. Thank you.
You're welcome,
Jack?
thank you.
I have none.
Sean?
No questions?
Okay. Motion?
So we'll need to continue.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I'll
we have to
draft-
continue.
Draft a decision for the December 13th meeting.
We can move to close. Oh, because it's more
It's
than.
more- it's 4
more
weeks
than-
away.
More than 2 weeks.
21 days, yeah.
Right,
Gotcha.
We're fine with that.
Move to continue for that purpose. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Book 242-1869, 674 Turnpike Street, request to continue to December 13th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. And 242-1876, request to continue to 12/13.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
What's this, is it out for third-party review?
Yeah, we have a winning proposal, and we're working to get the check from Lawrence and start it.
All set, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna do in 242-1878, 30 Ann Road.
Alrighty, so at the last meeting, the commission agreed that this NOI and order will only cover the sewer connection work, and any other work involved in upgrading outdoor spaces or anything else would have to come under separate cover or separate application. The commission requested that a dewatering detail be placed on the plan, and that has been done, and also a notation that the force main will be sleeved over the length of the culverts to ensure frost protection, and the rest of the main will be insulated if cover is less than 3 feet. Other plan changes included the 25-foot no disturb zone and other notations, but other than that,
Thank you.
that's it for the plan. And
Right.
the engineer's here if you have questions for him.
Yeah, I guess my other question is, the dewatering pit is up by the house, but where is dewatering most likely to occur? I would think it'd be,
Dewatering most likely won't occur at all. All the work will be above the water table. That's just there as a precaution. In the construction sequence, I do make a note saying if the dewatering is not anticipated, but if high groundwater is observed during construction, all construction shall be paused until the dewatering station is built, as shown in the detail. But like I said, we're not anticipating any groundwater during this project.
okay. I can't speak for the rest of the commission, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna wanna see that built before, just to have it in place in case dewatering is needed, as opposed to stopping work and then setting it up. But that's all I have.
Joe?
I do see the note with the sleeve over the culverts. It's there, but we need to, it's not what I had in mind. What I really think we need to have is that the sleeve extend over the culverts to 4 feet beyond either side limit. So it's the culvert, double culvert width plus 4 feet either side. So this says just simply over. I don't think that does.
Yeah, I don't really think dewatering is really, I don't really think insulation is really a big problem here anyways.
We're talking insulation.
We're talking about insulation, you're talking, right?
No, I'm talking about the sleeves.
The sleeves, so the sleeves we're gonna have going over there, but,
Yeah.
excuse me, so I thought you were talking about insulation, you're talking about sleeves.
Talking about sleeves.
Sleeves.
All right, so what's your concern? Could you repeat that, please?
So you've got, I guess I don't know the size of the culverts, or at least I don't
2 foot.
remember. 18?
2 foot.
2 foot, so say they're 4 feet, 12 inches between them, 5 feet. So say another 8 on either side, so we're probably looking at, getting something on the order of 12 feet of sleeve. So extended 4 feet to either
Sleeve.
limit of the culvert on either side. Because if everything were to break, and to move through, it wouldn't simply find its way down through the soil and get right into the
Yeah,
brook.
would we be able to make that like a condition for the next, we have to have another,
You
meeting
just
for
change,
that?
just change the note and make it a part of pre-construction.
All
Just
right.
submit the revised plan with that notation change.
Ryan must have read my mind. I am not a advocate for having the material for a dewatering plant just there, because everybody says, oh, we're not gonna hit water, and we do. I like the dewatering plant put on the plan. I like it installed before construction begins. And I don't, because if you do hit water, by the time you get everything put in place, even though it's on site, it's too late. So it's not a big deal. It's a hole, you throw some stone in, you put, so you have it, it's supposed to be for an emergency. That's what it's there for. So I want the dewatering pit placed on the plan, and I want it installed before pre-construction.
Yeah, so we have it on the plan now.
It's
but
on the
let's make a
plan.
note. It's already on the plan, but if you want a note to say that it's installed prior to
I
construction.
didn't see it.
It's on the bottom middle,
Detail.
dewatering pit.
Details.
Oh, yeah.
Detail and
But
location.
is it not on the plan?
It's-
The
yeah, it is.
location's near
Yeah,
the
it is.
septic tank.
Yes.
Near the house.
Oh,
That's really the only option, because you can't put it on the, you gotta keep it on our own property, and we're not gonna put it on the,
The wetland side.
wetlands area closer towards it, and there's asphalt, so,
Okay,
again,
yeah.
we're not gonna hit groundwater, but we'll definitely have it as a precaution, and, so that's not a problem.
Okay. This wasn't okay. This wasn't a common driveway, this is your driveway,
It
right?
is a comment.
Nope, this is another point I want to take up too. So the grant of easement is being drafted right now by the lawyer. The lawyer is kind of dragging their feet. The easement that was existed prior, back in the 80s when this was built, was very poorly written, so the attorney has to rewrite the grant of easement. So I want to make that as a condition that no work can be performed until we provide you the recorded deed into with the registry. But I'm just waiting on the lawyer to draft that up still.
Well,
We just
Hopefully
want to get,
hopefully they'll get it in gear soon, because you're not gonna be able to start until you get it.
correct.
Yeah.
And that's the anticipated, we're just trying to get everything ready, so when it is, we can go.
I actually just noticed that I was kind of ignoring the easement question. So the lion's share of the work, I should say, a good share of the work is on an abutting property.
An
Does
easement.
does the recording of the order of conditions go only against this property? Does it go against both properties? And why mess it up? And does the easement allow any enforcement action on a non-compliance to ride with the applicant? I've never run across this before where the work is on the abutting property.
Yeah.
I can
I think the easement would allow it.
I'm assuming it's an
Yeah,
access.
so that almost has to be cleaned up first.
What do you say?
The easement has to be cleaned
For
up
sure.
first.
So
Yeah,
the
that's
easement, can be correct on their easement too. So the reason with the easement, there already is an access and utility easement, but the way it references a plan that shows this entire section as part of the easement, but the grant of easement written by the attorney it only calls out the meets and bounds of the first 50 feet, but it is an access and utility easement, so I'm assuming that, I'm not entirely sure on how that works with the enforcement order, or here, it's not enforcement order, but how that works on when it's another property, but I'm assuming that's part of the easement if it's an access and utility, but I can do some due diligence on
If
that.
the property owner allows it, grants an easement,
But the NOA, did the property owner sign off on it as a joint applicant? And that's actually is a strong question. I'm not even sure if it's an issue. Does the easement out trump the fact that they're doing work on the abutting property?
I mean, an easement provides certain rights. It's usually through the written documents, it states what those rights are.
So I think we did.
we have easements, everybody, there's a ton of easements, so we've granted easements. Towns having utilities going through people's properties, we never,
It puts in when it's a public right of way and easements.
well, it's not,
We're
this
not,
is,
we're not recording that an order of conditions against the property. In this instance, we're recording I think the applicant is this particular property.
Right.
So would go to the registry and the order of conditions would be
Under it.
recorded against that
30E.
property and only that property.
Yeah, 'cause it's not the easement, because that's not, yeah, I think that's how, because the lot number 2, that house on number 37 isn't actually performing the work, so I don't think they wouldn't have the restriction on their deed if something would happen.
I've recorded orders of conditions that were only for easements, like doing utility work in the past, that we wouldn't even have a property address or a book or nothing.
So
It
we're
literally
not
was just
encumbering,
easement.
we're not encumbering the abutter's property with this order of conditions, it would only be just this property. Though, and I'm gonna use the phrase lion's share. The lion's share of the work is in fact on the abutter's property.
Yeah.
But I do think that needs to be cleared up first,
yeah,
right? The easement.
yeah. They
Yeah,
can't do
everybody's on
anything,
notice, I assume, this
Yeah.
hearing, right?
they can't do anything until that gets cleared up.
Right.
That they have a clear easement for the work.
But I don't even think we can necessarily issue without having that, right?
Correct. I'm not planning on the issuance for
Okay.
today. I just wanted to have everything lined up, so
Gotcha, okay.
everything is ready. It's,
And
it's
it
one
has to
more
be
meeting.
recorded, because if the guy ever sold his house and owns the land and said, no, I don't want the easement anymore, they have to grandfather that in there to cover them. Okay. Questions?
So we're looking for an executed easement before we can close
Yeah,
and
record-
issue the
something
order of
recorded.
conditions?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was gonna say, we could condition, this being an NOI, we could condition pre-construction of the dewatering pit in our order if we wanted to.
Oh, we do that, yeah. We do that.
So I don't see that as a sticking point on this, but, much smaller issue than the easement. I'm all set other than that.
The easement's a big issue.
Yeah.
Sean?
questions.
Okay,
Okay.
so we just have to continue.
Yep, and so luckily,
Okay.
we should
So-
have it by next December.
So we'll continue to, what's it, December?
December 13th.
Continue to December 13th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. See you
Good
later.
night, too. All right. Next one is, this is another one that we, 241 Mass Ave. we have an enforcement order with the driveway and the wall and, you know, that drainage at Waverly Road and stuff. So we're leaving that one, the enforcement open, even though they're filing for their notice of intent. Okay, Amy, it's all yours.
Okay. All right, so we asked for plan revisions at the last meeting. I had adjusted some wetland flags, and we asked for a no-mow zone and wetland markers to be depicted. The play area is proposed to be modified to remove it from the 25-foot no disturb zone and the neighbor's property. Proposed rear deck stairs have been modified to stay outside the 50-foot. Erosion controls have been extended up to meet the edge of the driveway. Let's see, and like Lou said, we have an existing enforcement order that allows immediate stabilization of the eroded driveway and next to the foundation of the garage. Will with Maureen Cameron is here this evening with us if you have questions for him, but other than that, that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Ryan?
No questions.
Joe?
So leaving the enforcement order open was primarily driven by stabilizing the driveway. And DPW, according to the summary,
Yeah.
DPW has
Has
agreed to do that. Or
Yeah.
actually, they've agreed to offer. They have offered to perform. So, I mean, is.
John Bergese
But the
said, "We're gonna do
AO
it."
stays open
We're
until
gonna do
whoever does it, right?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Well, they're being gracious because they have to do it to get to the head wall to do the work. So
Yeah.
they're not doing it because of, they're being lovely.
It's quid pro quo.
Yeah,
They need to get in, we need to help.
there you go.
So the method of stabilizing of compacted gravel, is that to be a permanent stabilization, or is that the interim stabilization?
So that's just to stabilize over the winter.
Interim.
Play was, hopefully, we'll give them the access to get down to the culvert, and they'll have to stabilize it.
So the
basically
thought
get
is
down
the
there.
AO stays open to allow that to happen,
Yep.
but the order of conditions addresses the permanent stabilization.
Yeah,
in
that's
the
gonna
end.
happen in the spring, hopefully, they'll have to repave and regrade the driveway.
So we have the double edge,
Yep.
the dual thrust of getting that addressed.
Yeah, and the enforcement order, that's just to stabilize so it doesn't progressively get worse over the winter.
I'm all set.
I am also.
Yeah, I think they've given us everything we've asked for. How's the condition of the site right now? That unstable area, the driveway?
I haven't been out there in the last couple of weeks, but yeah, it was kind of, since the last storms, it's stabilized itself in a way. But the driveway, we haven't had too much rain, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we haven't really had
So,
rain to test
but
it.
It's one of these things, the winter's coming,
For-
so.
They have a section that's kind of a disaster, but it's stable. They go by there every day.
You do, yeah, you do.
Yeah, so. It looks, especially the back looks real good.
Yeah,
So,
nothing's moving.
I mean, I'm looking forward to see how they're gonna fix that head wall.
Yeah, and erosion control being in place,
Yeah.
minor erosion, we're gonna
Yep.
recover. All right,
Yep.
no other questions?
Sean?
No question?
So I have prepared a draft decision, so you could close if you wanted to.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next one is 242-1875, 101 Colonial Ave.
And I actually have, if you want to take one of these.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
That'll be the simplified site plan, is what that has to.
Okay.
Sorry, I
I'll
know there's a
put-
lot of files.
No,
that-
that's okay, that's all right.
I see.
This is a new one. Oh, she had another one?
Yeah, that's just to scale, so if you wanted to be able to
Yeah.
measure it in real time, you have a
Yeah,
copy.
it's not It's not a revised set, it's just a.
Yeah, it's just a-
It's a two-scale set for you guys.
Yeah, just to have, nothing has changed from the submittal.
Are you Hannah?
Yes, I
Oh,
am.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Avery.
All righty. Okay, so I'll give a rundown. So the project involves installation of geothermal wells to replace the current energy source of oil. The wells will be approximately 84 feet from the BBW, and trenching for connection to the house will be about 46 feet. All of these features will be an existing lawn, and I believe the depths of the wells will be 300 feet or
Yeah,
so?
so the well itself will be around 300, the trench won't be deeper than 2 feet.
Okay. Okay, so the AC chiller unit that exists will be removed, and the new air source heat pump will be mounted to
So
the house.
it's actually gonna be inside of the house.
Oh,
so-
inside the house?
Yeah, so the only thing that's going on outside is the actual drilling of the well and the trenching. Once we drill the well and finish the trench, it will be reburied, brought back to grade,
Mhm.
and then nothing else will be outside. The
Okay.
heat pump itself will be inside the house, and you can see the trench path there. The reason why it makes that kind of dog leg is we're connecting it to where the existing furnace is, so we're actually going over, or I guess through the existing concrete pad to connect inside the house. It's, the furnace itself, we're literally just pulling it out, putting the geothermal furnace in place, and I don't even think we're modifying any ductwork. It's just gonna be, inside a one-for-one replacement of the furnace, but the exterior work will be within the 100-foot buffer for the wetlands.
But the existing condenser is still gonna be in place, because
Condensers are gonna be gone.
removed.
Everything's gone. It's the entirety of the furnace, the condenser, it's all gonna be interior inside the house. Yeah, and just, I know geothermal's kind of funky, so it's a closed loop system. Basically, what we do is we have, and I'll pass this out as well. The loop itself is basically a 1/4-inch tube, hard plastic. Once we install the trench, what we do is we'll run a pressure test to make sure that there are any leaks in the tubing itself running, from the house to the ground and back. After we finish drilling the well, but before the pressure test, we grout the hole. So it's a continuous drill down to 300 feet. We have steel casing. Once we get to 300 feet, we put the tubing in for the closed loop. Again, it's fused, so it's basically like a straw that's a U at the bottom. Once we get that to depth, we grout it and remove the steel casing as we go, so there's no interaction between our geothermal loop and the water table. When we do the trench, we do the pressure test that ensures that both the grouting is holding and also that the tube itself is fused and there are no leaks. If there were to be a leak, I just passed out the MSDS for the fluid itself. It's a mixture of 75% water, 25% this food-safe antifreeze. The system itself, we monitor, and also the homeowner gets to monitor as well. If there were to be a leak, if something were to happen, the system would shoot up an error and it would shut down the pump. So no fluid would get continually pumped into the groundwater. And even still, there's no makeup tank. So the volume that we install at start is the volume that's going to stay for the life of the system. The well itself is good for about 100 years. The furnace inside the home is about 25 to 30, depending on how much you use it. So in 25, 30 years, you could pull out the existing furnace, put in a new one, but you wouldn't have to touch the ground loop that already exists. And like I said, the trench itself is around 2 feet in depth. We can do it that shallow with insulation, so it doesn't need to be below the frost line. The plan generally is we excavate, we drill the well, we leave, we take the drill rig back off site, we come back with a small excavator about the size of a pickup truck, excavate to depth, we'll have the building inspector come out and look at it, and then once that gets the all clear, we rebury it. So at most, it'll be open for maybe a weekend if we do it on Friday and get approval, come back Monday and back it up. We generally don't need to bring in new material. We can usually backfill with what's on site, but if that is something that is an area of concern, we can source clean material for that backfilling of the trench. And then you can see I have two different silt fence plans. The first one is for the drilling itself, that's the U shape. It's a little bit more protective on the off chance we get an artesian well, which is when, we go through a confining layer of soil and we have positive pressure, so water shooting out of the hole. We prefer using silt fence just because it can hold a larger volume of fluid and slurry, but we can certainly do silt socks if that's preferred. The drill rig we're using, again, smaller than what you consider to be typical. It's about the size of a pickup truck. We have, you can see that red square in the driveway, a separate container. So from the drill rig, there's a hose that takes all of the slurry, water, cuttings, etc., and it goes straight into that steel container. That container then gets pulled off site. If we have an issue with an artesian well, we have silt bags available, so we can pump that water and material into the silt bag, let the solids stay in, and let the clean groundwater drain out. But anyway, that would be the plan for the drilling. The third page has the plan for the trenching. This one, again, we would prefer to do silt fencing, but we can certainly do a sock because that would be less invasive, and we are going to be in the 50-foot buffer zone. Again, the reason why we don't want to do it, we can set up both sets of silt fencing for one construction inspection if you guys would prefer. The thought process here with doing it in 2 phases is just the silt fence for the trenching is much larger. It goes into the 50-foot buffer zone. The drilling silt fence is further away from the wetlands area, less disturbance, so that's why we broke it into 2. But again, happy to do it as one, happy to do silt fence for the drilling and sock for a trenching if you'd like, but that's basically our proposal here.
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, thanks for the clarification of the silt fence. I think that we should have that labeled on the plan or a legend or something like that, because I wasn't clear that was actually silt fence. I would actually prefer silt fence, honestly, myself, just because I agree with you with liquids, the potential for liquids, as long as it's obviously trenched in properly and dug in right. So I don't have an issue with the phasing either of, just adding the silt fence as needed, for the 2 different phases. I think that makes sense. I guess just one point of clarification for the approval, the Wetlands Protection Act exemption. I understand, Nancy Lynn said that it's up to the commission's discretion. That particular exemption is typically for temporary exploratory borings, not a permanent.
Yeah.
But she's not incorrect. I actually work with her, so she's not incorrect. But,
yeah. Well, and I figure I would put that in just
Yep.
as general knowledge. We've done several, I think 4 notice of intent so far in a couple different towns. So I know, just because the regulation says one thing doesn't necessarily mean that we can, do whatever we want. But I figured I just
it was worth putting in there.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. That's all I have.
I think it's a great project, both in sustainability as well as the ability to protect the wetland nearby. I'm looking at the 2 sets of siltation plans, one for the well and one for the trench work. And I'm wondering, were these done in such close time periods to each other, why wouldn't it make sense to do the silt fence first, put it in, and then have that hay bale just while the well is being drilled? Gives you your first line of defense for that slurry filter through, and the silt fence is your second line of defense, which can remain in place for when you do the trenching.
Yeah.
But I think you show them on the single plan and install them once and be done with it.
perfect. I'm happy to modify the plans and
So you
send them
mentioned
over.
this, the silt bag, we call them dirt bags, but same thing, right?
Yeah.
I understand having it on hand should the need arise, but what I'm not seeing, other than the drilling spoils container, that's more than the artesian
Yeah, so
effect from the dirt bag.
Yeah, the drilling spoils container can handle an artesian well up to a certain gallons per minute, basically. If we have something that's excessive, we would want to be able to use a silt bag, and in that circumstance, we actually did have that happen in, I forget if it was Shutesbury or Shrewsbury. Yeah, and we had to file for an emergency permit there just because the volume we were getting out of that artesian well was greater than we could keep up with our silt bags and with the container. But
So my question is, I hear the dialogue, but
Mm-hmm.
where am I finding that on the plans of where that's gonna be deployed?
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't drawn it on the plan. I can absolutely revise it when I put out the edited silt fence and just throw it. But it would be basically on the corner of the yard, as far away as we can get from the buffer zone. The only thing I'm hesitant about on that side is just I want to double check how steep that grade is. I know we have the markers there, but sometimes it can be a little deceiving. Just because if you have a little bit of yard after your silt bag, usually it's such a slow filtration, it can get reabsorbed. I just don't want to put a wet bag right on the sidewalk and then have it flood into the street, especially as we're getting into winter. I don't want to make an ice hazard. But I can, when we revise the silt fence, I can absolutely throw that on there.
So to the eastern limits of the property, southeastern, if you call it along the frontage, you have things like water line, septic system, some squares, some arrows, and an electrical. Those should all say existing, right?
Correct.
Nothing, so just put the word existing.
Correct.
You're not doing any of that work.
No, thank God.
Okay, all set.
Is this the erosion control up by the 25, or is that a stone wall?
I believe that's a stone wall, the existing.
Existing.
Okay, because it's not, doesn't say, so I was just.
Yeah, there it is on the pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Go back one.
So when you drill this down and you get to the groundwater, does the groundwater come up outside the casing, or is it?
Generally, no. So if you can go to the, Amy, the, one of the files, I forget what the name of it was, but if you can go to that folder, I think it's, keep going down. Yeah, supporting documents, 8A, Kamakio Reg. Yeah, there you go, that one. If you scroll down a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's a picture of what we use. So there's the drill rig. You can see right at the mouth of the hole, there's a diverter. So when we drill down, all of the water, slurry, anything that would be coming out of that hole should get sucked up into that drill cutting tube there.
So the groundwater will be taken too?
Correct. Just whatever's coming out while we're drilling. It's not going to be actively pumped. It's just whatever's getting displaced by our hammer.
Okay.
On the same point, so you're drilling down through the overburden, and you're gauging into rock, and that's where your casing ends. You're drilling rock straight down. You're not casing everything all the way down, are you?
We're going to be casing till we hit bedrock, and then at that point, we'll just be drilling straight. So
Straight through, and
Correct.
there is no other casing.
Correct.
So what comes up is gonna be, the drilling mud and the slurry that comes up from the pulverized rock.
Correct. And like I said, once we
And
start...
then you hit a seam, that's where the groundwater comes in.
Right, and that
You
could
can
be
go
a-
artesian.
Exactly. And it's one of those circumstances where we do hit artesian wells every now and then, just the nature of you don't know what you're drilling until you get there. But usually with the silt bags and with the container, that's usually enough to contain it, at least until the grout sets and seals that fissure back up. If it doesn't, then that's when we have to start dealing with emergency circumstances, which we've done before, contacting the fire department, making sure we have protection for existing structures, et cetera. But we've been drilling for a while, and I think it's only happened once in Massachusetts and once in New York. And the company's been around for 5 years. So it's rare. It does happen, but it's rare.
The other, you said you were gonna use material from the trenching and stuff for backfilling. You don't have a stockpile? I don't see one.
No, so what we normally do is, because it's so shallow, we just put it to the side and then push it back in when it's done. Amy, if you go back to the supporting documents, there's some
Yeah.
photos of, previous jobs that we did. I don't know if it's this one or if it's the other 8B.
Could be.
Could be. I know I sent you so many files, so I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, there's another one too that has just photos in it.
Example photos is
Yep,
8C.
8C, here we go.
Example, okay. All right.
So there's the container, just so you can see. There's a picture of the drill rig. This was a job site where the homeowner wanted to reuse the cuttings for fill somewhere else on the property, so that was just a drying bed for silt. There's another picture of it, different property, similar idea. But that's about the volume that we get when we drill too, just so you have a general idea. As long as it's not artesian, it's actually not a large volume because the drill itself is around 4 inches in diameter. It's a very small drill. And then if you keep going down, there's it when it's done. You can see the hoses sticking out of the ground. That's how we would leave it after drilling, but before trenching. And then this is the trench itself. So that's 2 feet in depth. You can see the tubing there. And then we usually stockpile right to the side. And because it's usually backfilled within 48 hours, we then just move that dirt back over. And then we put in a,
Right.
you know, flagging
Okay.
so that there's, 20 years, hopefully, no one hits it.
Yeah.
And then this is what would look like regraded without seed. And then, up, we can do seeding, we can let it renaturalize if you prefer, just because we're so close to the wetlands. But we're up for either.
The reason why I think you should put a stockpile area on the plan, just in case you need one. Because, like I say, leaving it open for 2 days, anything can happen, and you looks like you're gonna be stockpiling in the 50. Then 100, between 100 and the 50. And the grades go toward the wetlands. So,
Yeah, we would certainly, if we needed a separate stockpile area, we would certainly do it within that silt fence. I guess it's a C shape. But yeah, I can delineate on the plan where exactly we would put that soil.
even if you don't use it, fine. If you do, you do. But I mean, I just,
Yeah, oh, no, better safe than sorry, I
yeah.
agree.
Thank you.
Check.
Yeah, I think it's a great project. I have no questions.
It's interesting. Sean?
No questions?
Can I circle back and ask us some specific questions?
Sure.
So, what size diameter well are you drilling?
So the bore itself will be about 4 inches. It might end up being a little bit closer to 6, depending on how rough the drilling is, but the drill bit itself is about 4 inches. The tubing that's going in is about a 1/4 inch,
So I'm not worried about the tubing. You
Yeah.
actually, because I assume 4 inches.
Yeah.
So at 300 feet at 4-inch diameter, in the dry, you're pulling out only 4 cubic yards, but a truckload of material. And I'm looking at your dewatering drill spoils, not the size of a truck. So what are you going to do as this stuff comes up? How are you loading it out?
So the trailer we can ship out, we have multiples of them, so what we usually do is once we get close to full, a truck will come pick up the existing one, drop off a new one. So obviously work stops while we're waiting to load and unload, but you can see there, that's the dumpster size. As long as it's not artesian.
It's about 4 cubic
Yeah.
yards.
Yeah, as long as it's not artesian, we can stop work, the casing can sit in the well, nothing should be coming out if the drill's not pushing anything forward, and just wait for the dumpster to get moved and a new one dropped off.
So, but I understand the pictures are part of the submission,
Yeah.
submission, and the plans kind of stand on their own, but I'm trying to orient things like drill spoils container. Is it that structure?
Yes, it's that dumpster, different
So that
names
fits
for
in the
same
driveway?
thing. Correct.
Okay. And again, that was in the dry, so coming up slurry, you could easily add another 30% volume, so that's gonna probably leave site twice.
Yeah, and pretty standard for it to come multiple times, so we're kind of used to it coming and going.
And
And
you have that backup, so you swap them out. You don't wanna stop drilling operations.
We usually stop it takes like maybe an hour. It's not terribly, it's not like a day, it's not like we stop work, have to demob and come back, it's
So at all times, you're discharging to this structure?
correct.
And as long as that is that square, I guess I'm all set, thank you.
Yep. And usually, again, depending on the geology and what we see, we can usually get down to 300 feet in like 3 or 4 days. So in that time period, 3 or 4 days, you get 3 dumpsters, that's not terrible.
All right, any more question, motion?
All set.
So I don't have a draft decision ready yet,
So we have to
so
continue.
we'd have to continue to the 13th. I'll have it ready for that
moved.
meeting.
And we'll have to do a waiver request at that time as well, right?
What's the waiver for?
Within the 50, the trench?
Yeah.
Actually, that's not a structure, is it?
No,
Trench is not.
No, it's not, you're right.
The well's
Does not
not.
require it, yep. never
Amy, can I
mind.
ask a question? So-
Yeah, so Kunal, the applicant, one of the applicants would like to ask a question.
Hi, everyone, again. Nice to see you all. Amy, I was just wondering, because the draft is not ready and then we have to continue to the 13th meeting, what is the procedure there?
So I have to write the decision that they're going to vote on. It'll be ready for the 13th. They'll review it, they'll close the hearing, and vote to issue, basically. I'll get that decision out to you within a day or two, and then from
Then the
there, we
10-day
start.
Then the 10-day appeal clock starts ticking.
Right, and then, once that's up, all the pre-construction requirements get into place.
So we need to wait for a new meeting in order for that
Yeah.
process to happen?
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately.
And unfortunately, I won't be able to be there because I'm traveling that day, so.
Yeah, I don't,
Don't need to be, this is.
There's no need
this
to
is
More of a formality?
Strictly, the regulation says we have to issue in 21 days, our next meeting's more than 21 days, so we have to push it to the next meeting to do that.
Our
Okay.
next meeting may be as long as just saying closed.
Okay.
That's it.
right, and then,
So you're all set.
Thank you for explaining that. I'm
Yeah,
not
sorry about
aware.
that, yeah.
I guess now the vote would happen and then we can discuss the letter?
Well, before we continue, you could briefly just say what your letter says and give them copies.
I would prefer to do it after the vote, if that's okay with you.
Okay, so that's gonna be, all right, so you mean vote to continue?
I'm not sure what
So
the
we have to
procedure is,
vote to
sorry.
continue the hearing to December 13th. That's our next vote for this project.
Amy,
So
what
there's
letter
not
is-
a vote
what
to
letter is-
approve?
He would like to just present a letter for the commission to consider some thoughts about how we, permit clean energy stuff and things like
That
that.
can be submitted at any time.
It's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
We vote
I
tonight.
just want to make sure that it's separate from our permit application and that this is heard separately from that. That's all I wanted.
Sure, yep. Yeah, so I would say, let's close it, let's deliberate, then when you have your decision, you can put in front of us whatever you want.
Okay.
So we're waiting until the 13th then to discuss this letter.
Or
we can do
To
it
close the
today.
hearing is the 13th,
Yeah.
and then we'll deliberate.
I mean, you can absolutely provide them a copy of your letter right now,
Uh-huh.
and then,
But not,
I mean,
Okay, well, I'll forgo that.
It's fine.
What I'll do is I'll give the letter
That's a
now. We can
contribution to
discuss
this
it. and
discussion.
or I
then-
can take it and make sure they
Wouldn't
get
do
it.
it.
How's that?
So I can't read it today? I would love to
you're the
read
applicant, you can,
part of it.
Yeah,
We've spent a lot of time
No, I
writing
know,
this
I
up,
understand.
and we're following your guidelines to write an open letter.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we have a
Yeah.
lot of neighbors here who are in support of this letter.
Mhm.
So it would be nice for them to have waited this long to hear
okay.
that for the record.
I mean, if you can
I'm the
be,
chairman.
Yeah, it's,
I don't have a problem with it. The question is that if it's changing procedure, that ain't gonna happen because.
Well, let
I'm
me-
not expecting
Make
that.
sure I understand this. If the letter is a general letter to the commission about a general topic outside of what's on the agenda regarding this public hearing, it's out of order. I don't think we should hear it,
Right.
okay.
regardless.
But
But it's the chairman's
can-
call.
He can give you your letter right now to take home and review.
Correct, correct.
Right.
And we can close the hearing. and We
Right.
can receive documents just as, if someone wanted to give us a Christmas card, we can take it home and read it. But I don't think we can really, I don't think we should discuss it until we read it and digest it and know what it means. But again, it's not an
Yeah,
agenda item.
So, receive the letter now, so you guys have a chance to review it, and if, at the next meeting after we close the hearing, there could be a brief discussion as an agenda item.
Yeah,
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
the meeting was, the application will still be open. So you, on the 13th.
So we,
Yeah, we're gonna close.
so we always,
And then issue.
we always deal with, new business and
Yeah.
general discussions at the end of every single meeting.
Right.
We get something from the trustees of the reservations, or we get something
Right.
from Greenbelt. We read those, we digest, we
Yeah.
discuss them. If any person in the town wishes to send something to us, they can come and present it at that time, or just simply let us read it into the record. But I think to discuss anything outside of the actual agenda item at this time is just simply out of order.
Okay. All right,
A
so,
lot of us here today on behalf of that.
All right.
I hope you could be considerate of that.
How did that come about, though? That's what I would want to know is,
We were discussing with Amy as to how this project has proceeded, and sort of it's taken a long time. As you know, I was here in the spring to try and get our COC closed. Since that time, we've been working diligently with Amy and, back channeling through the commission to get to this hearing. And from our opinion, this has taken a lot longer than what most residential homeowners would actually want to go through. And it's not encouraging us to take on clean energy projects in the town similar to this, which are in support of what you all are trying to do here, which is, protect the wetlands. And so we're presenting 6 recommendations that could help accelerate other clean energy projects like geothermal, like solar, like other projects that could help in your efforts in protecting the wetlands. That's all we wanted to.
This COC has been, this NOI was filed when?
I don't think it's even, I wouldn't even react to that. I don't think it's got anything to do with what this hearing's about.
No, but he said it was, I don't remember this being presented to us in the spring.
no, that was a certificate of compliance from closing it out for the subdivision.
For closing out something else.
Because our build, when we had our
Right.
subdivision built, none of the COCs were closed out in our subdivision. So we came to learn about that when we were trying to submit our first permit for our geothermal well. And because we had to backtrack and get the COC approved first, that is what I'm referring to when we came to you in the spring. Since then, we've been working to get to this point, which is filing the NOI. We were trying to file for an RDA. You all recommended that we file the NOI, so we had to take additional steps, which led us to this date, November 15th.
Okay, I don't want to get procedure, but if there's an open order, we can't agree on an application for existing. If there's an existing order out, we can't approve an order else on the property.
I understand.
But we do that so that we get orders closed out, because if we didn't, it would be, we'd never get anything, nothing would ever get done, right?
I understood.
I think
all I'm
it's
trying
fair to say that every single application that comes before us is heard on its merits as compared to the regulations that are both our local bylaw as well as the state regulations. Some sites have the luxury of being large and are able to stay out of jurisdiction, and there is no process at all. If you get close, there is a process that may only be a state requirement, and when you get really close, like this is, kicks it into a full-blown notice of intent. It is, we look at it whether it's solar, geothermal, wind. We haven't had any wind before, but we've had a lot of solar, we've had a lot of geothermal. We look at it as if we're an advocate of affordable housing. We look at it for what's being designed on that project. We all look at it objectively from the wetlands perspective only. And to stray from that or have any criticisms to that is simply, it doesn't pollute this application, but it certainly changes my taste of, what may sound certainly like a criticism that somehow, we are not advocating sustainable projects. And I think, Mr. Chairman, like I said 15 minutes ago, this is out of order. I think the discussion's over.
Okay.
I don't care how many people are in the room here.
All right, so we have a motion to
You
continue.
can just give us
I'll
your
give you
letter.
the letter.
Yeah. and
Well,
we can-
any
we
other
can review
questions?
it.
Do we have any about it for or against for this project? Want to
We
speak?
have several of others in the
Well, do they want to speak? Well, do you want to speak? You have to please come up here to the podium, give your name and your address.
And sorry, I didn't mean to go out of order. I just was
That's
trying to
okay.
understand the procedure.
Hi, Anthony and Jennifer Onello, 112 Colonial, and we're for the project.
Thank you. Anybody else?
We have two more.
Hey
Hey guys, Adam Bagney, 92 Colonial. Live across from the project and just fully support. And I think what Kunal was trying to bring forward here was not. I hope it wasn't seen as a criticism necessarily of the board. I think the goal is, and I think a lot of people in our neighborhood feel the same, is to really, like, can we streamline these projects? So, I would consider my home, which is across the street, I would love to consider a project like this. I'm not sure if I would consider it, seeing how long and how much red tape, my neighbors have gone through. So I think that's kind of what I think he's proposing in his letter. I will say that our neighborhood, we're all up against the wetlands. We're right up against it. And I think we have a wonderful community. Everybody lives in our neighborhood. And a bunch of people that all want to do the right thing. But I think, and I speak only for myself, but I think, when talking to our neighbors, I think that a lot of us, feel like that this commission sometimes is just a challenge for us, is a barrier instead of an assist. And I guess that's our biggest ask is, this is a project we all fully support. And I think, we asked that moving forward, we wonder, are there ways to sort of streamline this process so that can encourage all of us to go geothermal? And I think that's what Kunal was trying to get across. But that's it. I fully support the project. I know others in our neighborhood aren't here today, really do. And by the way, just appreciate all you all and your time and that you bring to the town. I know you're all volunteers, so thank you very much.
Thank you. If I could just comment to the overall thought. When he says this is out of order, what he means is procedurally.
For the meeting,
just
yes.
Strictly procedure. Like, somebody can't say, hey, I want to talk about wildflowers today.
Right.
And say, okay, we do that. We can't, because it's not on an agenda that's kicked out and produced and disclosed ahead of time. So that's, I think, when he says out of order, that's, in my mind, that's the only thing he's referring to, is it needs to be publicized in the newspaper. It needs to be put on there, and to give everybody an opportunity to be here for it, not just a handful of people that knew he was going to walk in with a letter. That's the only intent.
I recognize that. And as much as I've enjoyed sitting here and listening to your meeting, I won't be here at the next meeting where you discuss that. But you should know that, everyone in our community is for streamlining this process as much as possible, as I'm sure you probably are. But it shouldn't take 2 years to get a project like this, or it shouldn't take this amount of time to get this kind of project done. So,
Just a point of clarification too.
Yeah, please.
So, just so you're aware, we have our own town bylaw with wetland regulations, and there's also the state regulations, right? So, it would have to be a parallel, in terms of streamlining the regulations, it would almost have to be a parallel effort with DEP and with us, right? Because closing out a certificate of compliance, for instance, that's a state regulation.
Yeah.
It's not, we didn't come up with that, right? So that has to happen on a state regulation level. So I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree in terms of it'd be great if we could streamline stuff, but it's not just us that holds that authority.
Sure.
So I just want to make sure that's clear.
well, I understand too, though. I think, don't we have a lot of additional barriers here than, you work in a number of communities, right?
We do have our own bylaw,
Yeah.
which puts additional regulations on top of the state regulations. But for instance, the certificate of compliance, which was the original hurdle, that wasn't our hurdle.
Right.
That's been in place since 1985, probably.
Sure.
Right. So I just want to make it clear that we're not. If it's a hindrance, we're not the only one. Right.
Yeah.
There's other things going on. So we in terms of shouldering blame for that, it's not. Right. There's state and then us as well.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think, but one thing I should make clear, unfortunately, I think our neighborhood comes up too much. Well, it has to because of where it is. But one thing I would emphasize is everybody in our neighborhood wants to do the right thing. But our houses are where they are. The town approved them for being there, and a lot of us we want to upgrade them and make them nice. Yeah.
Not all of them.
Well, and we want to do the right thing too.
Yeah.
So we're bound by regulations.
Yeah,
Right. So as my heart goes out to you, I think these are great projects, but we can't. And in terms of streamlining stuff, we'd have to amend regulations, and the state would have to do the same. So, fully appreciate what you're saying, but it's not as simple as just reinventing something here.
I'm not suggesting it is, but we can do big things, if it comes to that, if that's something we can consider, whatever we can from a town standpoint, certainly support that, and just appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
By the way, it's Jack's birthday. Thank you for
It
spending
is,
your birthday
it is
with
my
us.
birthday, yeah, thank you.
Oh, jeez.
Well, just thanks for everybody's time. Jack Ferris from 31 Oxbow Circle. I'm 2 doors away from Kunal and his family. Just wanted to say I support the project as well, that's all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Alex Drinan. I'm 104 Colonial Ave. I'm across the street from this particular project. I want to echo a lot of what Adam said in terms of just, what some of our overall feelings are in terms of, the perspective of it being somewhat of a challenge sometimes to consider projects having to go through this particular process. And I think just like the resolution of tonight's meeting in particular is almost like a good example of that we've gone through all of this, and because of the nature of this, the timing and how many days have to be in between certain things, that this has to be now extended like another month before it can be approved and they can get started work. Just seems to me like an example of kind of what we're talking about. But so that's all I really have to say, and just that overall I support the project and any recommendations that are in the letter. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're good? Any more about it? No. All right, so we are going to continue to the 13th of December. 13th
So
of
moved.
December.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to collaborating with you. This is not meant to be a blame game.
Oh, no, no.
I'm just trying to,
It's
help
unf-
my neighbors in the future.
It's unfortunate that we have to continue to a month because of the regulation, the state regulations that said we have to wait. It has, the
Right.
decision has to be filed within 21 days, and then there's a 10-day appeal period. That's state. I mean, we
Yeah. I'd love
we
to
have no
learn.
control over it. I'd like to approve your project right now.
Yeah, I'd love to learn the state and town collaboration and figure out a way to shorten this time frame for everyone, because
You have all, you have
no
all
one
these-
understands this
You
right
have all
now.
these neighbors that are all for you, but if we have a decision, there's a 10-day appeal period, you might have a neighbor that lives on the street says, I don't want it, I want to appeal the decision.
I understand.
So we can't skirt that.
I understand.
Or we'll open up everybody to a lawsuit. So that's why I want you guys, we're not trying to disapprove or anything. If we were gonna disapprove your project, you would've known a long time ago. So I just want.
I appreciate that, thank you.
I just wanna let you know that our hands are tied, like Ryan said. There's state laws and there's local laws that do.
And
we
I'd
have
love
no-
to
we
work
have
with
no
the
control
DEP.
over.
I know Ryan works with the DEP regularly. I'd love to talk to these folks and actually have a good discussion about it. So I look forward to doing that next time.
There you go. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, where okay. 242-1880 Boston Street.
All right, so this property at 0 Boston is a little over 1 acre, and it's a vacant lot slated to receive a new single-family house, driveway, utilities, and septic system. The wetlands are located off-property. The first wetland system is across the street on the other side of Boston Street, and off-property at the very northerly tip, a couple hundred feet away. The work in the buffer zone to the Boston Street wetland entails construction of a portion of the house, driveway, front walkway, utility connection, and grading. The 50-foot no-build zone is located partially within Boston Street and on the house side shoulder of the street, but no new structures or paving is within the 50. No work falls within the buffer zone to the northerly wetland. A majority of the house, all of the proposed septic system and associated grading is outside the buffer. I reviewed the wetland delineations and found them to be accurate. I would recommend that erosion controls be extended to envelop the entire frontage of the lot along Boston Street. And that they be both 12-inch mulch stock backed by entrenched silt fence. The project representative is with us this evening. If you have questions.
Not right now, no.
Joe?
I'll get started, but I doubt it's going to be the end of the questions until I dive into it a little bit deeper. First, this is 0 Boston, is that a real address, or is that a holding address until such time as a number is assigned?
It is a holding address.
All right, so we're going to need to get a number, because this order of conditions has to be filed against the property with an address. I'm looking at mostly the septic system, but the entire easterly side of the southeasterly side of the property is a raised berm, and it's mostly driven by the septic system, I'm sure. But it is moving all the water, and again, a single-family residential exempt from the Stormwater Act, but there are BMPs. You are, in fact, channeling an awful lot of that water from that side down to the street. And I'm curious what it is you're looking to do to contain that on-site and manage it. Is there, given the height of the septic system, tells me groundwater is pretty darn shallow out there, and there's no place to infiltrate whatever it is you're diverting out to the street.
Yeah, so groundwater on the site was approximately between 30 to 40 inches. As far as the southeastern corner, there is a slightly larger area draining towards Boston Street now. There is an existing ditch running along Boston Street. We're more or less matching the existing hydrology in terms of area draining to that street. There will be a slight increase. At the moment, there are no measures to mitigate additional stormwater based on the not being pursuant to the stormwater permit.
Sorry, can you just give us your name?
Yep, Tom Schomburg of Civil Design Consultants.
Thanks.
And it's in that corner where, again, the resource here is across the street, correct?
Yes.
So what we have is country drainage on that part of Boston Street. There's very few, if any, catch basins in Boston Street that far out, is there?
I don't think there's any.
I think it's all country drainage.
I don't recall seeing any when I was out there.
That's all
So the potential to contain that and make certain it doesn't find its way across the street into the resource area, and however that is, if the country drainage comes down and there's a culvert or an equalizer to get it to the other side, I just would want to know how that's protected. So I'm wondering if some thought might be going into some sort of a treatment area, whether it's a rain garden or something part of the landscape that makes that function as a water quality structure.
Okay.
And that's a lot for not diving into it. I'm all set for now.
I think the project has some pretty good setbacks. Joe brings up a stormwater management issue that escaped me, but it sounds like it is relevant for here on this, such a narrow lot. But it's got a lot going for it, for sure. No other questions?
Wetlands across the street, I have no questions.
There you go. Okay, so let's see. What's this? Forgot to look.
So I think the sticking part, from my perspective, is if the water coming from here can get across to the wetland on the other side, do we know if there's a pipe or an equalizer that was intended to get that water beneath the road to get over there in the past? And
So we didn't see any as part of our on-the-ground survey. It looks, at least on this side of Boston Street, it looks like the lot before us doesn't have a ditch, and it happens at about this lot that the country drainage kind of begins, moving north along Boston Street. Looks like there's a pretty well-defined crown, at least in the road, so I don't see any water, at least from this site, crossing the street. It looks like this ditch continues on onto 515 Boston Street.
This section of town, this section of roadway is so old. I mean,
Yes,
it could be ancient pipe going across, it could be just simply a stone, not even a culvert, but just a stone French drain going underneath the roadway. We would never necessarily know it. I think the most I could ask is just in that corner, put some sort of a rain garden BMP.
In the, so it
On
would be
your
in the
Is
southeastern or the
This corner?
northeastern corner?
In the southeast corner. You're regrading there anyway.
Okay.
Just simply depress it and put a rain garden in there and be done with it, because I think all you can simply say is you're treating it before it leaves the site, and that's all you can get.
Okay.
Ryan, any more questions?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, so we have to continue anyways.
Oh, we would have,
Oh, we do, okay.
John DeSalt, 515 Boston Street. So my house is, if you're looking at it from the street, is to the right. So I don't know if this is the correct board to be posing this question to, but the grading of the land, you're talking about the water coming into the front. Is there gonna be anybody to make sure that water doesn't come into my property and then flood me out, especially with the torrential rains we've been having, or is this a question for a different board?
it's a valid question. The answer you're not gonna like. So it's a single-family residential lot, not part of a subdivision of 4 or more. Therefore, it's exempt from the stormwater standards, so diverting water in different directions is something that an owner can do. Doesn't mean they can do that without you taking exception to that, but it's not this form. I hate to say it, it's you're working out with the designer and the buyer, and if not, take them to court.
It's a civil issue.
It's a civil issue, it's not us.
Can I do changes to my property to build up the land between?
I've seen it happen.
Okay. All right, and then you were talking about.
Except, if you do that, in jurisdictional, you do have to come before us, and
Before
we
you,
cut
okay.
you the same slack, so long as you do it right.
All right, and you were talking about the water runoff. So the water, there is a slight gully in front of my house that then stops about right where the fire hydrant is. Then the water runs past my house to 503. At that point,
Go the other way, going away from this, right?
going down the hill
Yeah.
towards 114.
Going this way.
Then at that point, there is some type of a gully that goes down behind 503, runs behind all the houses. And I believe that is part of where I was kind of walking around trying to look to see where the property markers were. There's a lot of blue flags out in the back. Is that the wetlands? So that river, that kind of river, the stream that runs behind it, that is runoff from the street that then goes down behind, between, what is it, Paddock Lane and 503, that runs behind it. So that's where all that runoff, that's on our side of the street goes to.
All sounds like you're gonna be before us.
What's that?
That sounds like you're gonna be before us if you want to fill in your land.
I just, you're talking about he was talking about the high groundwater, and with the storms that we had, we did get some water in the basement, and that's without any water from that property running into my yard right now.
This
So I'm
is no
just-
map, there's no map floodplain out there, is there?
No.
No,
It's
I
an
don't think so.
intermittent stream, sure.
So I'm just wondering, after they clear it all, if they then grade everything to come away, do I now have my water plus their water coming into my yard and flooding me out?
Excuse me, what's your name?
Tom Schomburg.
Tom, do you have any responses for his concerns?
So as far as additional area that will be draining onto your property, I'm trying to break it out roughly on this. Looks like potentially up to an additional maybe 8,000-ish square feet. Or the majority of the site will either be draining to Boston Street as existing or to the rear wetlands as existing. We tried to take, minimize the amount of grading and kind of do what we can to reduce the amount of runoff that is going towards the other properties. But with the nature of the septic system needing to raise it, it's kind of just required additional fill.
So in essence, you're saying that you're trying to minimize it, but you understand his concerns and it could affect his
Absolutely,
property?
yes, yeah.
And then I don't know if it makes a difference, my leaching field is in the front of the yard, so if it were to drain into there, I'm guessing I'd end up having a swamp in my front yard in my leaching field if that's what
Well,
we're
this is
looking
in
at.
the design process, it would be helpful for you to have discussion with the engineer
Yeah,
to find some amicable
Okay.
thing. That would probably be the best thing to do. Because it's not, stormwater on a residential property is not jurisdictional for
Okay.
us. So,
yeah. So although Joe said we don't have control over it, we certainly can try to bring you guys together to talk about this ahead of time and anything that can be done to
and it sounds
get
like.
rid of these concerns we'd like to see happen.
And it sounds like he's receptive, so,
Okay, no, that's all I can ask for.
all right,
So talk to him.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And so, can I just ask a question about the grading towards the north and east of the house? It's necessary
Yes, yeah.
to make what work?
Just to be able to grade back down from the higher grades at the rear of the property and meet the topography running alongside that side of Boston Street.
So to Joe's point of trying to create some sort of stormwater feature at the southeast corner. Would somehow help that, or help the
I'm not sure you
concerns?
design
or
it
what?
in
Oh, no,
project.
no, I know that.
But
Oh, I
I'm
know.
looking at this as an alternative. I think, as I see this, the finished garage floor is 178, which gets you a foot over the street gutter.
Mhm.
So you obviously would try to promote positive drainage for the driveway going out without flooding yourself. That makes, so that's, you've got your house design set at the garage elevation, everything worked up from there.
Mhm.
You've got your septic system top based on separation from groundwater, raised bed. That's what's necessitated the grading all around the property.
Yes.
If I look at that front left corner, you've got a proposed grade of 172. If I look at the back corner, along that same property line, you're hitting a grade at 172 again. It's almost as if you're getting further away from this wetland, but closer to the real wetland, but still way away from it. It's almost like you could put a treatment swell along the edge, keep the water away from the street, pitch it to the back, get it to the back. You even have your foundation drain outlet going to the back.
Yeah.
If you tied it all together, got the water to the back, his problem goes away, the across the street problem goes away, and this drains beautifully.
Mhm. So
I think you just maybe just put a little bigger pipe in and just channel and collect the water in a trench drain,
Mhm.
get it all to the back, and put it in the same discharge location.
yeah, and that could be a solution to this as well.
The whole thing goes away. Just saying,
In any case,
think about that.
we need to continue. How does he get an address?
Talk to DPW, I don't know, I mean, I guess.
Starts with the DPW, and they usually work with the postmaster, but
Oh.
DPWs usually have it all worked out in advance to know what the next sequence
Next
is.
sequence.
All right, so you're gonna need that for the next meeting. So we need a motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, so the next meeting's the December 13th.
13.
Yeah, thank you.
Next one, EOs. AIEIO. 416 Abbott Street.
All right, just as an update, Commissioner recall, we issued an enforcement order to, they were redoing a patio and doing some drainage work, trying to shed water away from the house. We asked them to stop and install erosion controls. They've done that. They are in consultation with a wetland consultant and their engineer. They have a preliminary plan together, and they plan to submit in time for the November 13th meeting. So no action, just FYI.
All right, so no action is needed. Very good. Next one is 74 Autran Ave.
So, the Conservation Department, we issued a violation letter for 74 Autran. After the severe windstorm, the neighbors at Heritage Green caught their 74 Autran's tree contractor or landscape contractor dumping cut stuff over on the Heritage Green side and right next to the stream. So we had issued them a violation letter just to let them know, we can't have that to happen. We'd want them to come in just to have a discussion with the commission. Their attorney has asked for a continuance. The homeowners cannot attend due to work commitments, and their attorney would like to be, to become more familiar with the situation. So they're asking for a continuance to the December 13th meeting. And I thought, since it's not being ignored, we could give them a little extra time.
This sounds more like a legal issue for these two people than a...
Except that it's in a brook.
It's in a brook.
So that's where it becomes our jurisdiction.
Well, I thought they-
I was gonna say the same thing, separate the two.
Well, I thought we had, the last meeting, we had a discussion about debris and that they wanted to clear it up, clean it up.
Well-
Was that part of this?
It was part of it. It's not, I mean.
But there's other stuff they wanted to do?
Well, it was Heritage Green neighbor caught him on video doing it, so we kind of
No,
have
but
to
what
follow up.
the last meeting, we had a discussion, they asked us if they could come and they could just clean up the brook, and we said, okay. Was that part of it? Was this?
No.
That was something
This was
else?
deliberate dumping.
That was the same development, but that was actually a different issue on the other corner of the property.
Yes,
I think.
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that was up next to the old
Yeah.
Wendy's, down by Woodland, right? Woodcrest, whatever.
Right. So I think I would recommend granting the continuance.
You'd recommend what?
I would recommend granting the continuance for 74 Autran.
Well, you've gotten a response.
A response.
They've taken action. They've cleared the brook, but they haven't cleaned it up, correct?
We allowed Heritage Green to remove the debris since it was all on their property and we hadn't contacted the homeowners yet.
You should have threw it back over the fence.
Somebody get you on video doing that one. A tennis match.
So we're
Great-
now,
great
we're
footage.
really walking back and forth across that civil versus conservation law.
I know.
Well, I mean,
So let's go back to debris in the brook can't stay. We have to, someone needs to remove it,
Yeah.
and someone who should, we believe, doesn't own that property. The people who own the property voluntarily did some of it on their own.
some of it, yes, some of it. Right.
It's still a violation.
Yeah.
If these people aren't saying they didn't do it,
Right.
they're willing to come in.
It's pretty hard not to say they did it.
I don't see any problem with issuing a continuance. I was
Yeah.
starting to go down the road of, have Fiden start tolling today
No.
and resend them as long as they come into the next meeting. I don't want to string this on 2 meetings.
No.
Right.
Okay, so
All right.
we'll just continue it to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, next one is a Zero Turnpike, we already had that discussion. 241 Mass Ave, we had that discussion. Next one is 863 Winter Street.
Hold up. Alrighty. So the commission will recall at the last meeting issuing a revised enforcement order that began assessing fines that evening and running until such time that a removal and restoration plan be received. That restoration plan was received on November 8th, and I had stopped fining at that point. Commission did say that they would consider rescinding the fines if a removal and restoration plan was submitted in time for this meeting. So you have that in front of you, a narrative and a marked-up plan, existing conditions plan. And Maureen Harold is here this evening with the homeowner. You have direct questions for them.
Okay, that, Ryan?
Yeah, so, between the 25 and the 50, was that proposed just to go back to grass, or?
Yes.
It is, okay. Was that forested before? Was that was cleared out to put?
So, no, so I had attached aerial photographs to the package that I sent. It shows historically that that was maintained as lawn. So, let me pull up mine. So if you, just a moment. So I have an aerial from 2005 that shows the existing house, and where the patio is now, you can see an area of lawn. 2017, that is fairly consistent, I thought, reviewing the two aerial photographs. There is a patio behind the house shown in the 2017 aerial. That was constructed by the previous homeowner. I don't think a permit was issued. I think Amy had reviewed that one of the last meetings I was at. So we would like to return that area to lawn. We are proposing to restore the 25-foot. Primarily, I'm proposing shrubs in that location because the overstory, the tree canopy has been kept. The understory and the herbaceous layer is essentially gone, and that area is mulch. So what we'd like to do is remove the mulch, plant some shrubs, and also apply a New England Wetland Plants Conservation Wildlife mix to that area. I'm proposing that we incorporate posts with North Andover conservation medallions all along the 25-foot so that there is not any confusion now or in the future. We are proposing to perform the restoration work in May, if that's allowable for the commission, just given the time of year. In the meantime, we'll be back in front of the commission to file a notice of intent. My client would like to install an in-ground swimming pool and some of these additional fun items that we just can't keep in this area. So we will essentially relocate them so that they comply with the local bylaws and regulation setbacks.
I know the recommendation from Amy, and I just don't, when was the original enforcement order?
May.
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 April, May. So it's been 5 months, 5 months since it was, and the existing violation is still ongoing, and it just kept getting continued, and I thought we were being very forgiving, and I don't understand why the violation of the walls and the steps and all that stuff can't be removed, and it can still be
Sooner. You mean
stabilized. I mean, we
sooner
have
than
construction
May?
sites all winter, and we can stabilize the site. There's no way that we're gonna allow the stuff that's there now to be in the 15 or 25. So I think that stuff should be moved, and the site should be stabilized, like it would be any other violation.
I mean, that's certainly an option we could do if that's how the commission feels. My only concern is that it's November 15th. We have the holidays coming. I don't know what type of winter we're gonna have. We had a terrible rainy summer. It's a possible threat of erosion or sedimentation to the stream and the resource areas.
Was it that, it wasn't that hilly, was it?
I wouldn't say it was super hilly, but there is a slope down to the stream.
Yeah, but I mean, Maureen, you've done projects with hills and valleys and with the potential of flooding and.
I have. I mean, it can be done, Lou. You know, it can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done.
I'm just trying to be consistent with everybody else. We issue enforcement orders, and they should be enforced.
If we having the same hard, fast, dig your heels in conversation in May and June, and said we held them to it, I don't think anybody would disagree. Last thing I want to do right now is tell them to unstabilize a stabilized site with the risk that it might be able to be stabilized enough all winter long, when knowing full well that full year later, May and June next year, it will be able to be done and stabilized confidently. So that's where I am on that. But I heard you say something, I think I glossed over, I might have fallen asleep. The pool, you wanna move forward with doing the pool now?
No, so the intent is, we're gonna have Merrimack Engineering redesign the pool location. The pool is shown outside the 100-foot buffer zone. My client wants to look at maybe shifting some of those items within the 100-foot buffer zone, specifically the wall, the grill, the outdoor sink, and kind of incorporate a patio within the buffer zone.
Sure.
So we will be back to file a notice of intent, complying with the setbacks, and getting an order of condition.
That incorporates all of those things as well.
That incorporates
Where it
all
was
of
3
those
meetings
things.
ago. But thank you, that's exactly where I want to be.
Right.
So when's the time, I have concerns of Merrimack meeting timetables. So I'm inclined to say, okay, the enforcement order allows you to do the work sometime maybe May, June, sometime next summer. But what I want is an NOI in place, recorded, ready to go, so when the weather allows, I want that NOI filed no later than, pick a date, February 1st, second meeting in February, whatever it is. I don't want to string this on, because Merrimack couldn't get a survey crew together. I'm sick and tired of hearing that.
Yeah, but then we're back to the same thing. They haven't enforced.
It doesn't have to be Merrimack. I want the NOI filed. If that's the intention, the owner knows what they want, they'll work with a designer, they'll work with an engineer, they'll work with a wetlands person to get it all as one cohesive NOI that gets his property the way he would like it, and get something that we can issue a permit on, so that the enforcement is carried out when the weather permits, as opposed to, Merrimack finally got a survey crew out there, May 15th. I don't wanna hear that anymore.
I know, but
So
we
the
can't.
survey is done. So the survey is
Say
done.
survey crew, I'm just fill in the blank, whatever Stupinski's excuse he wants to come up with.
So
I
the
don't
last.
want to milk this thing on forever.
No, and I understand, and I appreciate the commission's patience with this, I really do. The last page of my restoration plan says that an NOI will be filed by March in hopes to get in a permit by the beginning of May. In addition, I said that all of the unpermitted structures will be removed prior to the installation of the pool. So it's clear that before he can even start digging a hole for the pool, we're gonna get all of those structures outside of your dimensional setbacks.
So do we have that in written request? Because that will be.
I have it right here.
That is the modification to the enforcement order we need to make, if that's what we're going along with. There's your timetable, it's laid right out. Make a part of the enforcement order, it's enforceable. The fine issue's gone away
Thank you.
for now. I mean, we haven't voted on it, but that's why I brought it up, and I'm satisfied you've met that timetable. And come May, come that March deadline, we may revise the enforcement order yet again to impose a fine in order to get this stuff done. So the clock is ticking.
The enforcement
Your
order-
date.
The enforcement order should be complied to before, because we should be able to approve NOIs with an outstanding enforcement order. I know we did have in those other projects because.
But this NOI actually is what allows the enforcement order to move forward with a real permit behind it. And it memorializes, because we just tell them, take everything out, put it away from the wetlands, file an NOI, and then move it back to where you want it. I just assume do it in one fell swoop.
They're not, well, then we're giving them false direction, because there's no way that they're gonna be allowed to put stuff back in the 25.
They're not saying put it in the 25.
No, we're
They're
restoring,
gonna
Oh, yeah, no.
we're
They're gonna
restoring.
salvage what they can from the hardscape that
Right.
they've got. They're going to incorporate that into a design that complies fully with our bylaw, that's what I'm hearing.
Yes,
The pool weighs into that, because since we're going to do it, maybe the pool that they were trying to avoid the NOI is a red herring. Let's pull it back in and get it where I really want it, so I can incorporate all these other features that are all fully compliant with about 2550.
correct.
I don't see any problem with doing it that way.
But the removal and restoration should be carried out under the enforcement order, and there should be a deadline tied to that, irrespective of when he gets an order of conditions in his hand.
Yes, that's what I've been trying to say for 6
But
months.
I think the
Okay.
deadline, I think the enforcement order deadline is still hard and fast, that they have to physically do work by a certain
okay.
deadline. It can run concurrently with the NOI. By reference, the NOI can simply say all these things that we previously ordered are now in here, and we can put deadlines in the order of conditions. I don't see any reason why we couldn't.
So in my restoration plan, I said May of 2024, because I feel like May can be a great month and it can be a lousy month, but at some point in that month, usually the end, the weather changes and it's better. And we can
May is
certainly,
usually generally rainy.
To have
everything
executed
removed,
the removal and restoration.
and then we can plant in May. We can start getting the
Yeah.
plants, we can get the
Okay.
plants in the ground, we can put the seed mix, so by the fall, that 25-foot will be on its way to be restored. I'm certainly open to modifying the dates if the commission doesn't find that month acceptable.
I just wanna see this stuff moved sooner than later. If you wanna set a date in March,
I hear what you're saying, but I agree with you that it's stable now, removing all that stuff between 25 and 50 just to make it unstable with the hopes that, I mean, seed's not gonna take right now.
Yeah,
It'd have to be a
nothing's gonna-
jute mesh,
Tackifier.
tackifier or jute mesh, it just, yeah, I mean.
And still a roll of dice, whether it's gonna work a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, typically with a violation, we're dealing with an unstable site, right? That's most of the time. This is a stable site where it's,
yeah, that for sure.
yeah. So
Okay.
that's my take.
Whatever the commission wants to do, I'm fine with it, but I'm not in agreement with it.
Yeah, but, I mean, one of the things you can do is get a date specific, like he's saying, and just make sure, make that a real hard date, and it's not gonna be kicked out at all unless fine's gonna happen. And one thing, I know, don't wanna get the cart before the horse, but, based upon what's happened so far, this is probably one NOI that I'm gonna wanna see a barrier at the 25-foot.
What type of area?
Usually a 2-foot by 2-foot stone wall.
Stone. Yeah.
But we're not at the NOI stage right now, so.
Okay.
All right, so, you wanna continue, I mean, you're gonna, the enforcement order is gonna stay it is.
No, we have to amend the.
Amend the enforcement order until March 1st, is that what you said?
May.
Maureen, you just handed Amy that letter, right? That thing that was spelled out,
I gave that to Amy last week.
last week, okay.
I thought you said you were gonna move the stuff in March and then.
I'm requesting it to be done in May because I find March to be a hit or miss month. I mean, we could get a foot of snow or we could get an inch. We could get rainy weather.
Well, May you can get a week of rain.
The ground's still frozen in March.
Yeah. I mean,
That statement
you
that
can't-
Maureen had just read and held up the piece of paper and showed us, you have that.
Last
What does that
page.
say?
And you do
Because there were dates in there. There was NOI to be
Right.
filed by, there was a
So
date.
shall
That was
file a
March.
notice of intent to reconstruct an in-ground swimming pool, patio, pavilion, and any other work within the buffer with the commission. My client is working with Merrimack Engineering to redesign the project. The notice of intent shall be filed by March 2024.
So let's pick a date in March for the NOI to be filed.
But I
In
don't
the-
think this should be tied into an NOI. I think Lou's concern is this thing, is gonna get dragged out, and it should be under an enforcement order, so give them the date.
I think there's another paragraph that talks about the other dates.
I don't know if that does. I didn't hear it before.
So,
I'm sorry, Amy. On the first page of my letter, it says, Mr. DeCarmico shall remove all the structures and hardscapes within the 25-foot no disturb and 50-foot no build zone in May of 2024.
There's that hot date, pick a date, so there's that one. So the NOI is by March, some date, the removal, May, and then you had a restoration was the last element, correct?
Yes, so we'll, once the hardscapes are removed, we're gonna restore it the same time. So hopefully May. I mean, it might be the beginning of June if we can't start till the end of May because of the weather, but shortly after.
Look at the site, and I don't see how it's gonna get that, it's not like you're on the side of a mountain.
Is there any reason why this amended enforcement order has to reference an NOI at all? I mean, if they wanna do an NOI to put a pool in, they can.
I know.
Yeah, it's not tied into an NOI, it's tied into May, right?
Yeah.
May to get it all out of there, and beginning of June to,
So we don't need to have the NOI unless we are certain of getting it out of the 2550. Would we let them stockpile stuff at 52 feet, still jurisdictional without an NOI? Just leave it there?
We said that 2 months ago or 3 months ago, that's what they were gonna do, we're gonna just get it off
Yeah, just get
out
it
of
out.
the 25 and the 50, stockpile it until they refile their
Stockpile
NOI.
Where? Outside the 100? If you stockpile.
Outside 100, fine.
The
If you
proposal,
stockpile just outside the 50, it's still subject to an NOI. Unless you tell them to put it outside the 100, from what I've seen from the photographs and the various presentations, that doesn't seem practical, it doesn't even seem possible.
the proposal I have in front of you is on that patio that the previous owners
patio.
constructed to stockpile it on that patio area.
Yeah.
And that's
On the
within the
existing
100.
patio.
Outside the 50, within the
Within
100.
the 100. That's why I'm
On
saying
an,
the
on
NOI.
an existing patio.
Okay, whatever you guys wanna do.
So, vote to amend the enforcement order to require removal and restoration by the end of May. I had suggested that, let's see, pre-construction meeting with me to review, install erosion controls before that work starts. Require 2 growing season plant monitoring and annual reporting, 75% overall survivorship. Making sure that we get invoices for purchases of the native plants and the seed mix. And I don't know if you want to mention an NOI, or it's really, if they want to do a project, they can just file a permit application when they want to.
and as far as where that stuff
we
is
don't-
placed, I mean, that's something we can put in the enforcement
Right.
order anyways, right?
That's
Put it
right.
on the patio,
Right.
put it there, put it wherever.
Right,
We're
right,
amending it now, so the time we have to agree where that is.
right. Well, look at the plan, I mean,
Maureen's letter shows a notice of intent shall be filed in March in the hope that the permit will be issued in beginning of May. So what she's saying is, and then he'll remove the stuff. So we're gonna approve an NOI with the outstanding enforcement order.
But Mr. Chairman, in my letter, I do say that before any work starts on the pool, the restoration needs to be done first. That's a priority. So that's stated in my restoration plan, even if we have a permit for the pool.
You also said you wanna reuse this stuff. You have plans to put this stuff somewhere else.
That was the thought, was to remove it and to reuse what we can.
Right, and so that's, why should that be, that shouldn't be included in the pool. That's not part of the pool.
It's,
It might be. It likely will be.
I think if he can reuse the material, he will.
I see a
But the whole point is we want it get the enforcement order finalized and resolved before he starts any work with the pool. That's the objective.
And that kind of runs against our practice and protocol of, ruling or deliberating on an NOI while there's still an open enforcement order.
Well, that's understandable. That's up to the commission's discretion. I can file an NOI and you can tell me goodbye. So,
Or we just don't close on it until after
right.
that stuff is out of there.
Right, leave them both open.
Right.
And then procedurally,
Yeah,
once the NOIs and once everything's good with the NOI, close out the enforcement order, issue the order of conditions.
Right.
And the enforcement order can dictate that, the storage of the stuff is outside the buffer zone, if you guys feel more comfortable. It's just another 20 feet and you're out,
Because I was always thought that the enforcement order was put out there to enforce. Evidently, we don't do that anymore. We allow things to continue to the stratosphere, and I can think of 2 or 3 more that
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
we
too.
have to start making every enforcement order that we do date sensitive. Period.
I'm with you.
And not giving somebody 6 months, then after 6 months, we didn't get around to it, or we're busy, or we.
Well, I think every situation is unique. We're at a time of year where,
We were having the exact same conversation in mid-June, this past summer.
oh yeah, get it done by
There'd
We
be
did.
no
by November.
I wasn't
did.
here. I was tied up for a couple months.
Well, I know, but they came before us in April. And they.
May.
May.
All right, May, call me a liar for a month.
Well, to be fair, we're gonna consider alternative mitigation, right? We asked them to come present right, so that was 2 hearings right there, right? They came in front of us once, we said, they offered up the potential for the 6 acres of
5
additional.
months, that's 10 meetings.
Well, I'm just saying the 6 months it wasn't just 6 months of complete.
There was 3 months of
kicking the
nothing.
can
There
down
was
the road.
3 months of nothing.
I think you've heard a theme recently about when we issue enforcement orders. We've been really putting real timetables in place. We've been doing it pretty regularly now for about 9 months. And it very well is projects like this that may have been the genesis of it. There have been others that they've gone on and on and on. And we finally said, enough is enough. We need to show progress. We did that a few meetings ago here, when the submittal of the restoration plan was simply delayed. We tied it back to a fine, so we started to put teeth in it. Again, I'm saying if we did all of that last June, I don't think we'd be talking about restoration next fall. Next spring, we would have been doing it, this past summer.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I do think the dates are important. I do think we need to start really being diligent with that.
And I think this meeting, or 2 meetings before, we had discussed, I had discussed with Amy to look up outstanding enforcement orders, and see if there were dates, and if there weren't, make some. We have to have them, all these old enforcement orders, come back and make them date sensitive, because we have a couple that are old.
Because then it's actionable, otherwise it's sort of just an open-ended.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we'll just do what we want, okay.
Yep.
We'll live with the enforcement. We never follow it up because we gave them till, whatever, or we gave them to this, or and it gets forgotten, or.
We didn't diary the date. Right? That's what happens. You don't diary the date.
So
it
we,
just goes on
so we
the
do
next day.
need
We
to,
can't possibly remember every
get to
applicant that come
10:30,
before us.
so can we, bring this to a vote?
Yeah, I know, it's getting late. We have decisions.
So, do you have sufficient information to amend the enforcement order the way we've been discussing it?
Yeah, so,
So I can move that.
Yep.
Again, it's just a rush in getting that out today, but the reality is, they're not doing anything
no, I know.
anyway.
Right.
So if you think you need more time to actually write that the right way and let us look at it and chime in on it and vote it at the next meeting, there's no harm, no foul. Make sure, I wanna make sure we get it right.
No, I know, I agree. I'm happy to draft something up if you feel more comfortable. Not to drag it out, but just to make sure
Just make sure
we're
we, you know,
crossing
we
our
got the
Ts.
sequence right and the dates right. I
Yeah.
just wanna make sure we got that.
Okay.
Second.
All right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Me.
I request the commission to rescind the fines on this project. Is that something that you can
You did
vote on?
say you would consider it.
Yeah, we could take a formal vote on that. I think the actual way the order was written is they've complied with it, so they wouldn't be subject to the fines anyway. But
Okay.
I can vote to amend, to rescind them. I'll make a motion to rescind.
Second.
That they satisfy that provision
Yeah.
of the enforcement order.
So did they satisfy the provision?
They
Yeah,
did.
they submitted it on
The
time.
Yep.
restoration plan.
Yep.
And you seconded it, Joe?
I did,
Sean?
yes. Jack.
Jack, oh, whatever.
Third time. Okay,
I
we've
y'all look the
been
same
going back
after
and
a
forth on
while.
that anyway.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay,
Aye.
thanks.
Great,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
All right, next one. I-495 southbound.
All right, so Keith Sullivan with Clean Harbors is with us this evening. We have an IRA in hand. We have an update also to that dated November 15th, talking about use of mechanical equipment. The commission wanted to know if that was in the mix. Originally, they were just gonna do the vacuuming or loosening and then vacuuming. But I guess what they're proposing now is to use a mini excavator to dig out contaminated soil. Once the soil is loosened, the excavator will drop the material upslope, and the soil will be vacuumed up to the guardrail staging area. Previously, they were gonna do it by hand, but they're gonna use the mini excavator to do the loosening. So you have a timeline for your next actions, roughly?
Well, the order,
Or-
I'm recusing myself from this.
You are? Oh, okay.
So for the schedule, the first action would be placing the new layer of wattle basically further downhill from the existing erosion controls. Took them a little bit of time to find the wattle, but apparently somebody in New Hampshire had it. And I'm referring to another branch of Clean Harbors. My group does not do any construction. I'm in the LSP side of the shop. Field Services is the men and the labor, equipment. They found a source. We have the wattle. I think they're talking about putting it down this coming Friday or next week. And then I think we're gonna have to shut down the ramp. At least we want to shut down the ramp so we have a good workspace. To do that, we need a traffic management plan. Visi Flash is the subcontractor that the Weymouth Field Services branch is retained for that. I don't think they've prepped the plan yet. They're not that complicated, but getting people to do things by a certain time is not always, doesn't always come out the way you want. We might have that next week. So then the traffic management plan gets submitted to DOT. They also have the IRA plan. We don't know if they're going to require anything in addition to what we're proposing or what you're proposing. I don't think they will, but that's really the only holdup we see for actual excavation. And there's the timeline, like, you know, there's only so much time to hire a landscaping hydroseeder to, you know, secure the slope. So it's either do we, you know, try to get this digging done now, or do we just prep the slope and come back in the springtime? And that's just that's a tough call, because if it snows,
in early December, that's a problem, so there's some moving parts. But again, our first action is going to be to add the additional erosion controls, and then pending on the other moving parts, try to schedule the excavation work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be done sooner than later. I'm not in favor of waiting till the spring at all. So originally it was gonna be hand excavation, now it's mini excavator and vacuum. Are you gonna have to do any grading to be able to even get a mini excavator into, like, onto that slope? Is it gonna?
They'll use they use what's described to me as a boom truck. Just think of it as a large hydraulic arm. It's going to lift the Mini over. They're also going to use that same lifting device to remove Baxter 3-yard bags of, whether it's wood, whether it's, I don't think they're not using that for the soil, but this boom lift apparently can lift the Mini over. I don't know how far it's going to put it down. I think they may just back the thing down to the work area. In the area, we did say we were going to use the Mini to spread the replacement loom and probably loom the whole thing, because it's got to be grubbed to a certain extent. But a question I have for the commission, because I don't do this all the time, if we are delayed, is it appropriate just to apply the tackifier without doing any grubbing? Can we just do that? If, let's say it snows in 2 weeks and it's a bad storm, then that melts. Can you just apply this to the slope? Or do you have to grub it first?
No, I mean, it can be applied.
Okay.
Just as long as it's a little more difficult if you have branches and stuff, right? You gotta get around it.
Yep.
It's not just like a broadcast spray from above necessarily.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, again, I just want to reiterate that the soonest this can happen before the snow
Yep.
is ideal, right?
Of course.
I mean, like, we really, we've seen this happen before where, you know, we've had another issue in town where it's, I know you're aware of it. It just seems like this stuff takes forever. So if there's anything that can be done to expedite this stuff to, you know, it has to be done.
Yep.
So that's just my position, and that's really all I have.
It's all yours, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Ryan steals my thunder, sometimes he calms me down. I was gonna stop by saying, you know, you seem like a nice enough guy, like, go out and have a beer, maybe watch a ball game or something, but I am sick and tired of you guys, as a company, kicking the can down the road. You come here and tell us all the things that we need to hear by asking questions. You're supposed to be telling us what to do. You're gonna tell us when you're gonna do it, but all you're doing is asking questions. I have no confidence. Granted, you guys are awesome when a tractor trailer overturns with 10,000 gallons of gasoline on it. You respond, you're out there immediately. You guys are awesome when it comes to that. The follow through, it's like once the incident happens, all you do is push paperwork and come to meetings and tell us stories. You're saying it needs to be sooner than later. I'm saying it's way past due. Clean the damn thing up. Do whatever it takes. You have to get it done. I mean, it's not our property. The part of the sour taste in my mind, my mouth, is that last incident, the guy kicked down the road and kicked down the road and kicked the road, was our land, conservation land, that you guys were representing the responsible party. And it still hasn't been restored. So, you know, for you to sit here and tell me, I don't know what we're gonna do. I know it's another division. They're gonna use an excavator. I think they're gonna use a boom truck. I think they're gonna grub. I don't know if tackifier is gonna work. You're supposed to be telling us that that's what you're gonna do and explain why it makes sense. You're not telling us anything. That's all I have to say. And other than what is sooner than later, we need to get a date.
Yesterday, I mean, yeah.
Well, how's that possible? You need permits from the DOT. How do I shut down a ramp?
Where the hell have they been for the past 2 months?
They might be responding to gasoline spills. That's the problem with a company like Clean Harbors. There's more than one project. So as far as I can tell you, we may have everything to the DOT next week. VisiFlash is not my sub, it's another person's sub.
All right, so let's talk about what has to be done. You cannot let, and this is your responsibility, you cannot let contamination migrate its way further into the soil, into the water column, or into the river. You cannot let that happen. We're not gonna let you have that happen. If it is, I wanna put it on the record in the enforcement order, that you, as a representative of the applicant, not you personally, but the applicant and the company representative is responsible, should that happen, to deal with it on their own. I don't want you to pass this on to your client. Because of whatever delays happen, I think it's truly because you guys aren't following through. I really believe that. I also believe that once you contain the contamination from getting down into the soil or into the water column or into the river itself, or the wetland itself next to the river, in either case, we also need to stabilize what's out there from an erosion perspective, because not only is an erosion going to be bringing silts and sands and things that we're supposed to protect, it also has the possibility of carrying with it petroleum contaminants. So you need to stabilize, and maybe it's already there, maybe there's sufficient hay bales and cell phones around it. If it isn't, there needs to be. So you need to, stabilize the site to get it through the time until they actually do the work. Keep it stabilized until it's restored and growing.
We have a downhill erosion control barrier of
How
silt
often is it
silt
inspected?
fence.
Do we know it's still effective?
Yeah, that I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to hear things that are measurable, tangible, and put the burden on these people to get the work done.
Right.
Because I really envision it's gonna be, of course, we couldn't shut the ramp down on Thanksgiving week. Oh, can't do it Christmas week. Oh, yeah, the guy was available to do it on President's Day weekend. We're not gonna shut the ramp down then either. I don't wanna keep this thing going
Right,
down the
right.
road.
No, I
I can
get
hear it happening.
Right.
And so I think we really need to set real deadlines
Right.
and set
I mean-
real measurable expectations. And that is to prevent the migration of petroleum contaminants and to stabilize the site to prevent the migration of silts and erosion of the slopes. Those must be done and maintained and reported frequently. Let's pick a date, pick how frequently. They're reported to the commission. I'd say at least once monthly until the work is done.
So like a monthly report on the
That the
status of the silt fence.
that the oil is not migrating, or the petroleum product is not migrating, and that the slope is stabilized,
And the soil's
and the soil's cleaned up. So, and then I think the last deadline we set is when we expect it to be complete. And I think we put a reasonable timetable that the work be complete, the restoration work complete by February 1.
Isn't the
Right.
commission's responsibility more on the erosion control and not so much on the contamination?
No, because the contamination is gonna go into the river.
Yeah.
That's our concern.
But isn't that a state concern too?
Well, it's in tandem. I mean, this is, so the area that was contaminated is riverfront area. It's a
Yeah.
resource area. It's the same, might as well be a wetland in terms
Okay.
of jurisdiction,
Yeah.
right? So even though it's an upland area, it's a wetland. It's treated just as if it was a
Did we ever
wetland.
get any calculations how much was spilled?
We had an estimate of 75 gallons, from what I remember.
Right. Plus 10 gallons of motor oil.
So 10 gallons of motor oil and of diesel fuel?
Right.
It was done in, when did it happen?
September 11th?
September. It's probably already gone.
No, it's not.
Really? I mean, seriously, I mean, it was,
We had a date certain in our enforcement order of requiring all the following actions to be carried out no later than January 1st, 2024. And that includes bolstering the erosion controls, allowing any manual handwork, full description of mechanized work if it's proposed, removal of oil or gas impacted demolished vegetation and cleaning the site with respect to vegetation removal shall be the satisfaction of the Conservation Department. Considering the growing season, do a tackifier. Beginning of the 2024 growing season, that's when we wanted to have the erosion control seed mix
And that
And then
90
additional-
days, that was the 90 days that he was in agreement with, because he has to do something within 90 days, correct? Wasn't there something you have to, it has to be done?
It goes 60 days. I submitted the IRA plan to the state. That was November 18th.
And you already did that?
Correct.
You did that?
Now, there's another 60-day deadline to day 120. That's when the second report is due. That's sometime in January, after the 1st. But you set the January 1st date.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that they're saying the work needs to be done by then. That's how their deadlines work. They want you to get it out as quickly as possible, but they don't necessarily give you a timeline for it.
I pretend to know the process, and I apologize because I probably don't, but when I keep saying kicking the can down the road and all you do is file paperwork, do you understand that cleaning this up would have been so much easier to just do it right away? I don't understand all those reports. I know that in the end you have to tell them it's clean, but why can't you have done all this other stuff by now? I just don't get it. I really don't. And enlighten me.
And like I said,
You have to provide at some point, you can provide it verbally over the phone. If it's a simple case, let's say it's a simple case. We just spilled 25 gallons on this nice flat area over here next to the road. We'd like to go and dig it out. Oh, will you approve us removing 25 cubic yards of dirt? Go to it. A simple case, it'd be over with in 3 days, 2 days. A complicated case, we have this slope, you got possible employee injuries, you have the DOT, you have the Conservation Commission. That makes it more complicated.
I don't think we're making it.
No, you're not. I'm just saying that there's another element.
I think we're the ones who want to get it done faster.
Exactly.
And we're dissatisfied with that
Based on
result.
what I'm hearing, if he starts working on tomorrow, you won't see anything till the first of the year.
No.
Which makes that date in the current enforcement order
And
still
that's
pretty good.
And that's if everything fires on all cylinders, which you know is not gonna happen. I mean, he's gotta get the safety, close the ramp, get the safety, but it'll take them 2 months to get a detail schedule just to close the ramp.
No, I don't think so. Once the traffic management plan is in, DOT is pretty good. They're trying to expedite this type of work. I would say they would give it to us in a week.
It is really just, not so much even detour, it's truly traffic management. And it's not like they're working in the roadway and tearing up the
Yeah,
roadway.
it's an on-ramp, not an off,
So
so.
they should move pretty quickly on that.
Small dozer with an excavator would have been done in 4 hours. Done.
Well,
Boom.
No, it's gonna be 2 days of grubbing. We gotta get all that crap out. We gotta get the wood out.
Glad I'm not paying for it. 2 days of grubbing on that little area.
You must have 18 guys doing the work.
18 guys, I thought you were having an excavator.
Mini excavator, but still.
2 days?
All right, so,
I could
so
do
we
it in
have our
4 hours.
Municipal
current,
employees in this.
so we have our current
He's gonna have
enforcement
18
order.
guys there?
I don't think that, I think
written
it's
fine.
pretty comprehensive, and we have a
Right.
date, and if for some reason an extension needs to be requested, it can be requested. But, not to say we would necessarily grant it, but, I mean, I think.
The enforcement order is to have the plans in place by January 1st, is that
No.
correct? Did I
No,
get
it's
that?
supposed to be done.
It's
The work
comprehensive.
all done.
It goes
The
all the way
work, and
through.
then
Short of,
Then-
short of stabilization and
in the
and
spring or,
revegetation.
right, or seeding in the spring, because you're not gonna seed in January. But you're gonna tackify at the very least, so.
Then
Well,
you gotta hope that
I
it
don't know.
doesn't snow sometime in December. Because once it snows, they're done.
I wouldn't want to go in the snow anyway.
Yeah.
so.
And then you make more of a mess.
We're just talking.
I know.
The enforcement order as written is adequate. We don't need to amend it.
Okay.
We voiced our concerns. I didn't vote a little more than I should have probably, but nonetheless, you can understand how we take it seriously. And, so I think there's nothing to vote here, so I think,
All right.
you know.
Do you wanna continue to the 13th, just for an update? To see progress, or?
Isn't that the date of the meeting, January something or whatever?
When's that January?
December 13th
That's what I
is our
meant.
next
Huh?
meeting.
No,
December
no, we're
13th,
talking-
yeah,
January
Just-
1st is the order.
is the order, but,
Ja-
you know,
January
maybe,
10th.
Yeah, January 10th. I don't want
All
to
right.
hear any.
all right,
Any more stories in December?
All right, so continue to January 10th.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Opposed? And one ab-
Thanks,
and one ab-
Keith.
and one abstention.
abstention.
One abstention.
And, yeah, Sean abstained.
Oh, Deacon head.
All right. All right, so we have I think we got 2024,
Ian Road.
no, we're not.
Okay,
We're not.
Yep.
We're doing 241 Mass Ave, though,
okay.
because we closed on that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Well, even this one, I'm not crazy about because there's so many, the driveway plan, do we see any grades or why they wanna do it and what the base is and?
DPW is gonna help.
I know, but we're approving it, we're approving a driveway, we have no idea how we're gonna do it.
The plan that they submitted tonight shows what they're doing for grades,
Yeah.
and DPW is coming in and doing the gravel. It's an interim stabilization, and that the applicant's responsible for stabilizing it permanently in the spring.
Right.
That was what was before us tonight.
Right.
And I don't know how you wanna do this, but, or how we can, but remember I talked to you about the, beyond where the pool is, the fence? There used to be no backyard there,
Yeah, well,
and that was, there's wetlands back there, and but where they started and where they're finishing is.
yeah. I don't think, they haven't been in the house that long. They probably bought it that way.
They've been in there
So-
about 2 years.
Right.
We've been-
And
I
it
guess
looked that way
shouldn't
when I
do that
first
in
met
front
him,
of I
when,
guess I've been aggravating
within the
everybody
first one.
tonight, so I'll let it go. I'm not gonna say nothing. But they expanded their backyard.
You're not aggravating me at all, just remember the way you always been.
All right. How's this order, guys?
I just asked the questions.
I move that we issue the order of conditions for 242-1879 as drafted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. Motion to adjourn. Oh, no, we added the calendar.
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 I move that we adopt the calendar as drafted.
You got a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous.